bring it all up here. Hello and welcome to the Josh and Tyler Show. I'm Josh. This is Tyler. Today we're in person, and this time we have mics that we'd be like, try something new. How you doing, Tyler?
I'm doing all right, and you?
Yeah, we've passed the first 15 seconds, so I can say 2S for fucking fantastic, because they didn't monetize you after 15 seconds, I guess.
Lord knows that makes plenty of sense.
They just don't want you to make money on YouTube these days. I mean, even if we got like 1 million views, we get like, what, 3 cents? It's like, it's shit, you know?
I feel like 1 million views is probably $100 for some people. I'm not really sure.
Like, maybe Mr. Beast gets that, but we don't.
I've never even seen a Mr. Beast video. I'll flat out say that.
I watched the Willy Wonka one. Thought it was a lot of fun, but I can't say much other than that. I saw like clips on TikTok. That's like what I do with those things. I don't know. I didn't watch a PewDiePie video in a long time. I was a Jacksepticeye fan. What can I say?
Never seen PewDiePie either.
I watched some gaming. I like when people were scared. Did you ever go through that amnesia phase where they're like, "Oh no, we're scared! It's screaming on screen," and like people were just like trying to do their best scream. It was priceless. It was great. It was great.
That sounds like a Tide Pod challenge type of bullshit, which that's nowhere in my alley.
At least they're doing dance challenges now instead of Tide Pod because, like, oh my goodness, do not eat cleaning products. It's not rocket science. It's like, don't do it. Tyler, how have you been? What's going on the channel? Tyler Wolff, you know?
Things are going all right. I mean, that's probably the most videos I put up in a month over the course of this past.
Yeah.
It's been like 6 or 7 videos, and I've averaged like 163 per, which is an above average month. I know for a fact I'm going to have to see more movies, put more content out there in order to keep it up, but I'm ready for it. I mean, I am starting to experiment a little bit more with my format, trying to like recreate the atmosphere of a movie as I review it in order to be as well thought out as I possibly can, but try to condense it in a shorter amount of time, and also just to create something that most movie reviewers really don't do.
Yeah, what was the one you did the review for? What was that movie called? It was the toy thing.
Yeah, so I recreated the horror atmosphere of the new Canadian avant-garde horror movie Skinamarink, which it's every bit as creepy as as everyone's been saying if you're into that sort of thing, because needless to say, this is one of those horror movies that you're either going to love or hate. And when I first heard about it, I looked up the director, Kyle Edward Ball. He had a YouTube channel that's still up where he would ask people to send in, like, what are your most frequent nightmares growing up as a kid? And then he would visually recreate them as much as he could. And then because they kept sending in similar nightmares about being home alone, nobody else in the house, all these sounds, the possibility of a monster in there, he created this half-hour short called Heck in the very same visual style that Skinamarink is based in. I watched it by myself, lights out, headphones in. It was only a half hour long, and it has fucked me up ever since. I was not afraid of the dark beforehand, and I'm technically not really afraid of the dark, but here's the thing. If the lights are out at night and you feel as if you're by yourself, like there's no sound, there's no light, but there's the possibility that it could come in at any moment, in your house, especially at night where the doors are locked, if someone comes in, you're basically fucked. Like, I don't mind
you're done.
I don't mind being in the dark outside. I don't mind being in the dark outside because if something happens, there's a place to run to. There's your cell phone to call somebody.
Street lights, you got a few of those hanging out.
All of these wide open possibilities. But in your house where it's more claustrophobic, it's a lot trickier to like defend yourself.
But yeah, that review is up. It's pretty cool. Check it out. It's very artistic. I like art. Art is good.
See, I filmed a majority of that after I watched the short Heck, and I was hoping that I could, at the very least, calm myself down by just showing that anybody can recreate this style, just to take the fear and the mystery out of it, and it did the exact opposite. But on the plus side, artistically, I knew that I was kind of onto something, and then I realized with the possibility of weirder movies like Knock at the Cabin, which comes out.
Oh, yeah. I saw the trailer for that. I don't know what to make of it. Are we going to see it? Because I'm down to see it.
I would like to. I want to.
Old was something, but I appreciate it to a certain percentage. I can't be too mad at it. It just had a dumb twist.
Old was bad, and it could have been so bad that it's good,
liked
but
the
it wasn't.
actors in it, though. Like, there was some really good cast.
Of course there was.
Like, you had Thomasin McKenzie from Jojo Rabbit and Last Night in Soho, and you wasted her talent.
She and Eliza Scanlon were probably the more redeemable actors within that, and the mom, Vicky Krieger.
And the premise was great. You just botched the ending. You Shyamalana ding-donged yourself.
The premise is great is because it's not his premise. It's based on some French graphic novel, which, without spoiling anything, doesn't actually explain why people are rapidly aging.
It would make more sense as like a half-an-hour short film. I think it works better as like a pared-down, two-person, half-an-hour short film. I don't think it makes a feature. But,
well,
I mean, Knock at the Cabin, Scott Batista, he's fun. He's always fun in things, whether the film's good or not. Like, even in Glass Onion, he's fun. I know you don't like that movie, but Batista's fun. Even in Guardians 2, which I didn't love, he's a lot of fun.
My problem with Glass Onion is mostly the writing. Those actors did the best that they could.
Oh, yeah.
I mean
you can't blame them for that.
With Old, it can be like a 90-minute Twilight Zone episode of just the horrors of what it means to grow old at such a fast pace. Because there are a lot of real-life fears that come with the fear of embarrassment, that of looking older compared to everybody else, the fears of your body slowly degenerating and not being able to do the same things that you could before, and also just the limited amount of time and what do you do with it, who do you do it with. Like there was so much potential, but it's Shyamalan, and he just had to throw in his own fingerprints.
Make Split 2. I'll watch it. Well, yeah.
We have that. It's called Glass.
Oh, Glass. I actually really like Glass more than everyone else. It's not perfect, but I had some fun with it. I had some good. It's one of the better ones. Like, what's the one he did with the Visitor? The Visit. I like The Visit.
I haven't seen The Visit.
I enjoyed The Visit. I thought it was really good. It was like a callback to like the smaller stuff he did. But other than that, like, you got a lot of meh in there.
Yeah, that's generally what he did. And I am looking forward to Knock at the Cabin because it's another great premise. It's based off of some novel, apparently, which I had no idea.
When does it come out?
It comes out this upcoming Friday.
So that's when the show's going to be out, Friday night.
And I'm looking to get a bunch of coworkers to go see it, and I would definitely throw you in with that.
I mean, let's talk Sunday, but we'll get to that. But yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna have a review up on Tyler's channel by the time this comes up. Because we always read right out of the movie theater, probably in the car.
Most definitely.
What are we seeing, Tyler? What are we seeing?
We are going to see Brandon Cronenberg's new horror flick, Infinity Pool, starring Alexander Skarsgård, and who should have been Oscar nominated for Pearl, Mia Goth. Now that she's becoming a horror icon, and so is Jenna Ortega. Considering how much stuff
she did
she's
Wednesday. I mean, I did watch X, and I liked X, but I didn't watch Pearl yet. But I hear really good things, and my co-director Sophia on the film we did last and makeup artist loved Mia Goth, and she agreed. Oscar nominations all around. I didn't see that one, but it's an origin story, and I understand you liked it better. If you watched last week's show, I think we discussed a little bit of this. We were talking about Oscar noms. I hope you guys like that show. Today, we sort of have just a loose format. We're just going with it. Behind this wall of VHS, there is mystery.
Assuming they can even see the majority of
I don't know. They're
titles.
like all black labels. I'm trying not to get a copyright strike from like Disney for like all the VHS in there. I do have a Robin Hood.
I can barely see any Disney.
The Disney ones are like the
names.
big chunky ones. I got a lot of the old Disney.
Okay, just looking at these, I can kind of see that. But
a bunch there, and there's Spy Kids and Muppets and all that stuff. And,
he clearly doesn't give a shit about Warner Brothers.
No, Warner Brothers ain't gonna get me. They'll fire me before they make me Superman. I fired Henry Cavill, so like I don't know. They got Jason Momoa though. I don't know. I think that's all right. I didn't.
Did they?
Yeah, but Jason Momoa says he's gonna play Aquaman till the end of time, and he will always be Aquaman. I don't know. It's like some BuzzFeed headline or something. I saw it popping up the other day.
It wouldn't surprise me if that were the case.
But yeah, I own a lot of movies. You own a lot of movies. This is the segue to the actual topic of the show. 9 minutes in, it's time for the show. Is it 9 minutes?
Oh shit! Has it really
It's
been
9
that long?
minutes. We just shooting the shit, with a clay pellet gun and a little dog hunt,
Yeah, and if I gotta be honest,
that's
I
a
feel
good
like
mode.
I feel like we should do
Just
one
more
video.
of these casuals.
One video that's like a hangout, and then another that is
I'm totally in for this
genuinely
hangout.
serious.
Maybe we just skip the topic, and this is just like our midweek hangout. You
Yeah,
wanna just do a midweek
so
hangout?
yeah, basically.
Alright.
I mean, when we put up our first video in like months, because
we've been on a
we're so
break.
fucking busy.
Oh my goodness! I mean, like I'm freelancing. You've been working there a bunch, and you've been just doing
the hours are really starting to pile up. That's what it
Yeah.
takes when you're a cook in a country club.
Yeah, you get
But,
more hours than the other week because you were only like working a little bit. Are you working more?
Yeah, we're slowly starting to get more events, more customers
Oh,
in.
that's good.
But as we were both watching our underrated dramas list, I was starting to think, well, gee, what can we do next week? And one thing that had occurred to me is that we haven't really talked to each other that much about where our love of movies came from. And I thought just as a hangout topic, it would be a great thing to discuss.
Just to be clear, I don't love movies. I love movies. There's a difference, you know?
No, there's not.
It's the way you say it. I love movies. They're great.
I thought you were going to say you live and breathe
You know,
cinema
movies are
like
real
you're
great, you
Tarantino
know?
or
I
something.
love movies. They're fantastic. Whatever. I don't know. I was going for something there, and it just, it hit for me, but for no one else, I think.
That's one of the things that makes our channel just so fucking niche.
It's really hard to do my Stallone, you know? I've been trying to get that down, but I'm not quite on the voice. I've just lost it lately. You know, you lost your impression.
Yeah, you'll get
I don't know.
there.
You don't. I don't think you do any impressions, do you?
I mean, I remember we were talking a little bit about Hobbs and Shaw, and I think you were cool with my Statham impression.
Oh yeah, that was pretty solid. Do that for them.
Why might call a champagne problem.
That's pretty solid. You know, that's good. That's
That's
good. I
really
like
the
that.
only line of his I actually remember, and it is from Hobbs and Shaw of all things.
Honestly, Hobbs and Shaw for me is like Fast and Furious. When you think Fast and Furious, I just want to go off on tangent here. So I like the first one. It's a fine movie. I think it's got a 90s twist. I think it's probably the most grounded of all the Fast and Furious, and it's fun. Too Fast, Too Furious has a great song I like to drive to in Gears of War while I'm shooting the light tank at those monsters. Too Fast, Too Furious. That's a great Luda song. I'm a big Luda. Get back, motherfucker. You don't know me like that. I like Ludacris. I'm a big rap fan. Luda's pretty cool. Grass is always greener on the other side. Chicken and Beer. What just a fantastic album. And then like Fast 3, like Tokyo Drift, I actually really like.
It's not
I
bad.
like Tokyo Drift. I mean, y'all on TikTok like that thing. My life be like ooh ah. That's a little grits with a little Toby Mac. You know, it's a Christian hip hop song that like made its way into popular conscious. Just throwing that out there because I think that's pretty cool. But then like 4, I could care less about. 5 is really cool with the safe. 6 is meh. 7 is like a end. 8 is there's a submarine, I guess. But like for me, like Hobbs.
No, that's the 8th one.
That's the 8th one, yeah. Fast 9, I guess Han's not dead. I don't know. I really like number 1.
I didn't
and
even
I'll take
bother with
number
that
3 and Hobbs and Shaw. Like my wife will always tell you, right? She likes Fast and Furious. She likes action movies. You know, we go see them. They're fun. And I think Hobbs and Shaw is the most fun we've had at a theater in a while since like Deadpool in 2016. Honestly, it was Deadpool's a lot of fun. We had a great. That was Valentine's date. But Hobbs and Shaw was good. I really like Hobbs and Shaw. I think the ending is a lot different, where they go back and they like have an electric pulse. It's a little cheesy, and sure the trailer spoils things, but I had a good time watching that movie. What can I say?
Yeah, it was once in a while a thing for me to take my mom to see a Fast and Furious one. Like I remember seeing Fast and Furious 6 on a school night because she wanted to see it, which I genuinely don't understand where that came from. But yeah, there was that. I had to take her to see Fate of the Furious because my dad and my sister were
That's
out
what
on
number
like
8
a
is called.
soccer trip, and we had a good time. And because of that, Hobbs and Shaw ended up happening, and she again really loved that one. She also really loved to see Idris Elba, which is weird. My dad's the Wire fan as opposed to her, even though she and the Wire's awesome.
I'm the Black Superman.
Yeah, they just love to pump. They just love to pump that line out.
I mean, honestly, Hobbs and Shaw is fine. It's fun. I like it. I had a good time with it. I prefer it over Vin Diesel these days. I don't care about Fast X, Fast 10. Even my wife looked at me. She's like, "We ain't seeing that in the theaters." She looked at me and she's like, no,
Wise
"Mario
choice.
is wrong." I'm very proud of her because she looked at me and she's like, "I ain't seeing Mario. Chris Pratt is not Mario. It's the wrong voice. Get the guy from the video game." I'm like, "That's my wife. That is." She knows what's up. And my buddy then he's like, "Hey, let's go see it." I'm like, "No, I ain't seeing that."
I don't know shit about Mario, but I agree with everything that Josh's wife just said.
Get the voice actors. It's not like when you have the Mario movie. Like I don't mind Jack Black as Bowser or Keegan-Michael Key or whatever, or Florence Pugh in there, but like you literally got 20 years of game, 20 years of voice actors, and you're like, no, you're doing what Scoob did, where you throw away like Frank Weller and Matthew Lillard. Like you already have the people. You don't have to sell people on the names. You're like, hey, it's freaking Scooby-Doo. There you go. You have the people everyone knows and loves. You got no problem there. I mean, they're just redoing the Blue Falcon. Like in the Mario movie, like people, like you could attach me to be Mario, and no one will know the damn difference, except I can't do a Mario voice, you know? But like no one cares about the voices behind it. They care about Mario.
I love that you threw in Scoob as the example.
No,
as
Scoob
if there
is the
wasn't,
example.
As if there wasn't a better, more recent
Well,
example.
I can't be too mad at the guy from It's Always Sunny being Fred. I just think he's told a bad script. I'll take that.
Oh, yeah, because Lord knows that's the problem.
I mean, there's plenty of content on YouTube about that. I just didn't like Scoob. I like the first, it's like Up. I really like the first 10 minutes of Up. Like, that is beautiful. And the first 5 minutes of Scoob with, like, a boy and his dog, it's really cute. It's really honest. They go to the beach, and he's like, hey, I'm a lonely dog. And he's like, hey, we're going to catch that dog. He's like, no, you're not. And they become friends, and they eat sandwiches. And, like, I like that. That should have been the whole movie. But, after that, I just didn't care. I mean, even the live-action Scooby-Doo's. Like, I'll take Scooby-Doo 2 over Scoob. I'll take, like, Scooby-Doo Shanghai Surprise direct-to-video
I'm
or
only gonna
Scooby-Doo
take
Meet
it.
the Flintstones over that.
I'm only going to take it just because Linda Cardellini is in that cat
Fantastic.
suit.
Well, like the original Scooby-Doo films, like, Fred is, what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr. is perfect as Fred. Sarah Michelle Gellar is perfect as Velma. Daphne with,
No, Sarah Michelle Gellar is Daphne.
Yeah, Velma as what's her name?
Linda Cardellini. I literally just said her name out
Really
loud.
great. And then Matthew Lillard was born to play Shaggy. And I mean, like, I can deal with CGI dogs and farting Scrappy-Doo and whatever.
It's not like they were going to get a live-action Scooby-Doo.
It's like the most accurate to the cartoon. It reminds me a lot, like, you have nostalgia. Like, I love Inspector Gadget. Not everyone does. But, like, that second movie, Inspector Gadget 2, was, like, perfectly the cartoon. It was perfect to the cartoon.
It was closer.
It has exactly the henchmen and the plot and the silly looseness. It's like a 30-minute cartoon stretched into a movie, and I like it. The first one I still like. It's fun. But, like, it's never going to be the cartoon, but, like, they tried really hard to do it. And I can admire that,
It's debatable whether Inspector Gadget was actually good to begin with, considering when you look at the actual formula, it's Penny's show the entire time.
The greatest
let's be really
clip,
honest.
the episode from season 1 down on the farm. I died laughing at this the other day. I have a VHS of Inspector Gadget back there somewhere, like the old school one. So Inspector Gadget isn't killable, but they actually came really close to killing Gadget in this cartoon. They were like, we're going to kill Gadget. We're going to get him. So what they do is they put him in a house and they put him to bed, but he starts counting sheep and they cover the whole house in sheep. But he has this inability to escape, so he's sitting on the roof. The whole thing's covered in fucking sheep, and he's like, well, I guess I counted too high. It was so good.
They literally threw him off the Empire State Building and fucking nothing happened to him.
I mean, he's got go gadget, whatever, right? Copters, skis,
that's
roller
literally
skates, rocket launcher.
That's literally the
Skittles
one
machine.
line. That's literally the one line from Inspector Gadget 2 I remember when all the glitches happen and he just goes, "Go Gadget, something that'll get me down from here." Like that's just a funny
Who played
line.
him in the second film? Was it? It's a French Stewart, right?
Yeah.
I like Third Rock from the Sun. Like I will still go back and watch that every once in a while. Like
Third Rock does have moments.
It's got some
for
funny
sure.
stuff. Like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is genuinely funny in the film. And who plays the other gentleman? Jonathan? No.
It was John Lithgow.
John
was the
Lithgow.
main guy.
He's really, really good. And, like, there's just some really good stuff in there. I mean, like, I would cut the laugh track. You know how I feel about that. But, like, I think it's some pretty solid stuff.
I'm still a laugh track guy. I mean, it depends on how good the writing of the actual show is. Because if you're just paying people to laugh, then people are going to notice really quick. But, I mean, I mentioned that 70s show quite a bit to you off camera. That one scene where it's the last circle between Eric and his friends, and Red just happens to walk in right at that moment when they're brought upstairs to be disciplined, and we get a POV of all of them while they're high. The audience adds so much to it because you can tell it's genuine in that they're not seeing these jokes coming. Like Eric seeing the walls constantly moving behind Red and Kitty, or with Fez, he literally sees everything like it's a fisheye lens. Like that stuff is hilarious, and the crowd just eating this shit up enhanced it for me as if you're actually part of the audience. Like the best sitcoms are the ones where you feel like you're actually laughing along with the audience, and a lot of that does come down to the writing, or in that 70s show's case, the direction too, because it was directed by the exact same guy through and through, and you can totally tell because it wasn't just shot reverse shot. It was the 360 cameras. It was the slow motion, all of the 70s stuff. Like there's literally a cat fight between characters, and they do the Batman pow, punch, chunk, all of those things.
So
like,
did you get to that 90s show yet?
I have seen all of. I plowed through it
because I watched all of this, and I wonder what your thoughts on it. Because I know you're a big fan. Like I like that '70s show, but not as much as you by any means. Like, what did you think of that '90s show?
It was okay. I don't think it was good, but I didn't hate myself as I was watching it.
Okay.
Like the '90s kids, they're not the worst, but they are pretty generic. And when you're trying to piece together who's the carbon copy of who, it gets a little inconsistent sometimes. Like the gay kid, you know for a fact, is supposed to be half Hyde because of how snarky he is, but because he's the one because he's not white, I guess that makes him Fez, and he has a little bit of
So
an
do you think they'll
accent in his
cancel it
delivery.
after season 1, or do you think it'll get like?
It really depends on how nostalgic people
like they canceled
were.
Wednesday, and people can't stop talking about that show. I guess everyone's talking about it, not watching it.
I haven't heard anything. I swear I've heard about Wednesday
I
season
thought that was
2
being
somewhere.
canceled. My wife watched that show. She
The
really
internet
liked
is
it.
the internet is all over the
Addams
place.
Family fan, yeah.
I can't really tell whether it will. It really depends on how many people watched it just to see the cameos of the original cast. Because I mean, Eric, Kelso, and Jackie are literally only in the first episode, and with Kelso and Jackie, it's completely pointless.
We get a little more Donna. She comes in a later episode. And,
Donna is
yeah.
like the most consistent.
They
throw in Fez a lot, and I can't believe I'm saying this. They make him a bigger perv than Kelso was, which is confusing.
You know what I like in this show? And it's just me. I love that episode where they're trying to write Clerks and they have to go to Chong or Cheech or whatever his name is.
That was great.
That
That part
like,
was
yeah.
pretty good.
You know that one movie with the convenience store? I like the Blockbuster. I think the difference between that 70 shows and that 90 show is that 90 show is very reminiscent. You have a lot of the same things, like them getting high and the walls moving and a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same jokes. I really like the moment with Eric where he does the shove the foot up your ass. That was really funny.
That was weird. I mean, I did like when he was telling his daughter about like the time they spent in the basement, and when he says how the two of them fell in love on the stairs, Leia just goes, "Oh my God, you did it on there? No."
And I love where Rhett's like, "I'm so proud of you." Like Rhett and Kitty are really the star of that 90s show. I
can't believe I'm saying this, but like my favorite character in that 90s show was Kelso and Jackie's son, because weirdly enough, he is a better human being than both of them combined, while still kind of being the Kelso ripoff in that he is a bit of a ladies' man. He is dumb, but he just has he's such a sweetheart to Leia, even though the very end of the season, he does not deserve her over something that happens completely out of nowhere.
Is that the picnic episode you're talking about?
No, it was when she goes to see her best friend and she has that conversation
she has to decide
with the
between
brother.
the best friend. She just I know what you
mean.
mean.
Where the fuck did that come from?
I did not see the chemistry there. I liked seeing Jim Rash again.
I honestly didn't even know he was in that 70s
Yeah, he was in a couple episodes. I like him in Community, obviously, and it was really funny to see him and Fez make up after because I had recently watched that episode, and I was like, Fez was probably the funniest returning cast member because he had that hair salon commercial. It was fantastic.
That was interesting, and I love that they still won't tell you where the fuck his country is, because
it doesn't matter. He's just having fun.
I know, but at the same time, like when Kitty's explaining where he came from and the tea kettle is drowning out the sound, I just sat there and went, yeah.
But there's a really honest moment in there when Kitty and Red sit down, and he's like, I don't want people in my house again, and she explains why she loves people there, and I really think that was a really great moment. I think when the kid came out to the mother during the computer and like the frustrations between those two events, I think that was a really sweet moment too. I think there were some really good dramatic moments in there. I mean, some of the jokes like really killed me. Like the more I watched, the funnier it got. I think that's like when you watch that 70s show, if you watch one episode, it's funny. But if you watch 5 episodes, like it just starts to hit, like it just, the more you enjoy it, the more you watch it. Like you could watch 1 and have a great time, but you could watch 5 and by the end you're like rolling on the floor laughing because like it just works. You love the characters after multiple episodes.
And if I thought these characters were anywhere, if I thought they were that good to begin with, I probably would have felt that way. But I mean, the side characters outside of Leia, who's okay just because she is so similar to Eric, even though she has
did a really
problems.
good job for a young actress.
She was,
especially
for
to
sure.
Carry this show on her shoulders. She is the lead.
But here's the thing, though.
I think she did a great job.
her best friend, the riot girl that lives next door, which I just love that even though they can't curse on this show, they have riot girl spelled out literally with middle fingers. Like, that made absolutely
You know what I
no
love about her
sense.
character? She has this like 90s feminism without shoving it down our damn throats. It's just who she is. It's not the entire show. And it's just, you get this alternative point of view without being like, be woke right now.
Yeah, but to be
And
honest,
I appreciate that.
I still don't really remember what it is that the two of them like connected with each other over. I'm not really sure.
I think it was the keg. I think it was the keg in the first episode, right?
I know, but like outside of that, if you were to ask me why these two are friends,
Oh.
I genuinely couldn't tell you.
It's the first episode. It's the bootleg that she has of the band they both like.
Was it?
Yeah, it's the bootleg, and they both like the same music. That's why they start hanging out.
Okay, that I can kind of understand, but like the other girl she's just there. And like she has no personality whatsoever. There's one episode where
you mean the girl that's dating the brother?
Yeah, they give her a little bit where she has some hot tutor or whatever, and I guess she's super ambitious and smart, but like I wouldn't have noticed. She's literally just there to be flirty with the brother who the brother's stupidity was just it was too much at certain points. And I feel bad saying this because I wanted to like Ozzy, but I found him way too mean-spirited in order to be funny. I mean, Hyde was super snarky and beat the shit out of people once in a while, but his heart was always in the right place. He was just so stoic that he never liked to express himself. And with Ozzy, he expresses himself a little too much, and again, so snarky that there wasn't that much to like about him.
I mean, I did like that we got to see the diner restaurant again, but I think the best scene in that was when Kitty comes in and she's like, I know people around town. This is my town. I thought that was I think Kitty and Rhett really tie the show together, and I think Leia really brings a good performance, and the cast is okay. But I honestly, I would watch a second season. How about you?
I don't know. Like, all the pieces are there. I just didn't find it funny or the characters even coming close to having that good of a bond. I mean, I can at the very least understand why the kids in that 70s show had a bond, even though technically they were all vastly different from one another. I can explain why Eric and Donna liked each other. I mean, yeah, Eric was super scrawny and Donna could kick his ass at any time, but he was so humble and smart and funny that you can understand why she likes that about him. And with Eric, why he loves Donna, it's a little tricky for me to explain, I'll admit. But at the same time, I think they just have similar attributes. That one episode where they're ditched at the diner, they're constantly called Mom and Dad. And because she does have a mature side of her, which she expresses through her feminism. And I just love the end of that episode where they trick the guys into eating brownies that had chocolate laxative.
Oof.
That was hilarious.
Sounds tragic.
And even though I told you in the car that Hyde might have been like the most consistently funny, for me, Eric had the best burns. Just because he was so humble and smart, he was just straight to the point.
See, that's something I liked about that 90s show. They only did gags once, and pretty much that was it. They didn't try to redo the gags again. They only did burn once, and I think if they had
that was funny. That part was funny.
Constantly, it would feel too much like a repeat. They were at least trying to give them their own identity, and I think it partially worked. But that burn moment, I was like, yeah, that's where it's at.
I love the delivery and the fact that Jay was so committed to sounding like Kutcher. That part was spot on.
He looks like Kutcher too. He looks like young Kutcher. I mean, they did a really good job of finding someone who looked like him.
That was a huge surprise.
I think the audition went like, "Oh, you got it. You look like the guy."
And then he just goes, "That is freaking awesome."
Yeah, I like that 90s show. I like it. I don't love
it. It was okay.
But,
like, if you like the original show, you can sit through it fine, whether you laugh at it or not. I will admit, I felt like Red and Kitty were a little bit of a repeat. Like, Red just continued to give the foot in the ass treatment all the time. Kitty, she'll always be funny.
I think Rhett, though, had a little more change of heart. Like, in the original show, he was a hard ass, for sure. But in this one, he, like, eventually came around.
That was weird.
He eventually came around to, like, bring her resume when she left it there, and he eventually agreed to getting rid of things from the house. And he really tried to be a sweeter guy. I think in his older age he lightened up, and I like that. That's where the character would have been 20 years later.
Maybe just because I'm so used to him doing the exact opposite that I did find it out of left field. Like when he gives Leia that one speech on her birthday about how we're all constantly figuring it out as we go along. I'm just sitting there and I'm going, you seriously couldn't have said this to Eric at any given point?
I mean,
really?
I think he learned a lot of lessons as a father growing up, and I also love the moment where he's like, I got $20 in this card, but then he just outdoes it and gives her the Vista Cruiser. I mean, not that we saw that coming, but he's just trying to outdo whatever Donna's father. Is that the character?
Bob. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that they're trying to put him to sleep. He won't wake up.
It's like trying to tranquilize a rhino.
He's like, I don't know what I'm eating. Have some, have a cupcake. Oh yeah, go.
I just love that Red and Kitty even made references to movies. Oh my God, it's like Beetlejuice. We said his name too many times.
I think that 70s show was more grounded in the 70s, and this does not have as much of a love for the 90s. It doesn't feel like there's as many 90s references, and that's either for better or for worse.
And even when they do, it just feels like, hey, it's the 90s. We got to mention something. Hey, let's mention Sheryl Crow or Clerks.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Clerks thing because, like, if this is like 1995, 1994, Clerks was huge. Clerks was huge around.
It was
time. 1995. Like every high schooler and college person wanted to watch Clerks.
I gotta be honest, I didn't like how Leo was just shoved in there for the hell of it. And I know Leo's not
Which
that.
One's Leo?
It's Chong.
Oh, I liked him. I think he worked in the nature setting out there.
The nature setting, I didn't see the point of.
I thought it was fun. I mean, if anything, he's out in nature, like looking for weed. Like that's just how it is.
Well, sure. I mean, if they suggested that would be something. And I'll admit, when Kitty and Leia knock on his door, and he just sits there, and goes, "Oh, sorry, man, I don't have any Halloween candy."
You know what I'd love for Halloween? Clerks. Look, I have one, man. That's perfect. And then I love
Leo, honey, it's Kitty. Do you recognize me? Yeah, man, that's a really good costume.
I like the realization when Kitty's like, "Hey, how would this old guy be?" Oh, just realizing he was a drug dealer. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think I'd go back and revisit it now.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I like Leo.
Give me a year. I might revisit it again. You know, I might just put it on. I mean, like, it's comfort. It's comfort food, you know? Give me that soul food. Give me that Outcast. I'm down. Goody mob.
They could have at least made the circles in this show funny. I mean, 70s show, everybody watches The Circle just to see those golden moments of them just forgetting what they're talking about. And I once mentioned to an old friend of ours that we don't really talk to anymore.
Oh, fair, yeah.
You know exactly who I'm talking about when it comes to that. And I did mention, wouldn't it be great if there was a show where we actually reviewed or talked about stuff in the vein of that 70s show where we were sitting in a circle? And we did try that once, similar to this, but it didn't.
Like a camera guy for that.
Didn't
We're
work
just
out.
using my phone.
Well, here's the thing. My folks have this rickety turntable that I could just set my laptop or my iPad on, and I feel like, assuming the people I want to see Knock at the Cabin with would be willing to do that, I would be willing to try that out myself.
That sounds dope. I mean, you should.
Assuming that
we should review that 90s show with a circle. We should do an intro for that. We could record one afterwards. Be like, hey, today we're talking about that 90s show. And I don't know.
That's the thing. I really don't have that much else to say about that 90s show other than it
Mila
exists.
Kunis was
I don't
wasted.
hate it.
She was wasted. No reason to bring back Mila Kunis. She says, hey, I'm back, and then runs away, and then she's in the circle going, that's her. She has 15 seconds of screen time.
Yeah, we just had to remind ourselves that Kelso and Jackie really did end up together in real life.
Yeah, I think she wanted her to be with Hyde at the show. I saw a quick interview. She wasn't too happy with the writing, but you know.
I was surprised that they got rid of her and Fez, because one would think that it would at least stick for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like that the sets work there, and they brought in the kitchen. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid experience if you like that 70s show.
It turns out when that 70s show ended and you were allowed to apparently take some stuff from the set, Kitty just took half of everything. In fact, the set designers are like, hey, in order to recreate the set, do you have anything we could use as reference? Oh, yeah, I have everything.
I mean, I think it's a good watch if you like that 70s show, but I don't think it's going to gain any new fans, and I don't think it's meant to, and that's okay. I think it's just meant to be fun. I don't think too hard about it. Netflix, did you see that? Did you see that story? The Netflix CEO said they never cancel anything that's successful. Did you see that? He actually said that.
And already I know how much that means.
I mean, like, Inside Job was fantastic. Why'd you cancel my season 2? Everything sucks. Where's my season 2, y'all? I don't care about Stranger Things. I'm sure there's a crowd. Give me Everything Sucks season 2. But, you know.
I don't know what that is.
Everything Sucks is a 90s show. It's set in the 90s. It's this kid who falls in love with the principal's daughter, makes an Oasis music video, and then he ruins the theater kids, like all the snobbish theater kids, like stage play, so they make a movie in the desert. It's the most adorable, heartwarming, like love story 90s quirky coming of age movie you'll see. They got an Ace of Base cassette like stuck in a bus as they drive down. It's really funny. It's really sweet, and there's some really dark, dramatic moments, and it honestly deserves a lot more attention than it's getting.
I'll just have to take your word for it on that.
So
one.
good. Watched it 5 times.
Okay, then.
I mean, like, I like the first season of Cobra Kai, and I like Cobra Kai. I think that's fine. I just, I'm probably not going to revisit those seasons. I think there's some great stuff in there, but I feel like you need a karate tournament at the end of every season. But that's me. Because, like, what are we doing? Rocky 5? Street fight? Nah, you need karate. You need a karate thing. You can't just be like, showdown next season, everybody. But no, I have a soft spot for some of Rocky 5 because I think his son does a pretty good job. I just think the script sucks. That's honest alone. I will take Stop or My Mom Will Shoot over Rocky 5. I'm a horrible person. But not Rhinestone. But today's topic, 36 minutes into the show. What are we talking about? Movies. I guess we're doing some interview style thing. That was the plan. Yeah.
Like I said in our intro that was halfway
This is
through
like
the
a
time
half
that
an
we
hour
spent
intro.
on
Just
this.
call us like movie trailers. They never end.
I swear to God, we might have to put this video up just as the intro.
Nah, we're just gonna. Remember, you did the other week. I saw that you put like the timestamps below. We got to do that, and then
Yeah.
you can skip the intro for later for playback. And when we shoot the shit, you can just skip that. But like, I mean, it makes us more human. You don't just want to see me rant all the time.
Should we do an intro just saying, "Hey, this is how we do it. If you don't like it,"
But I'm not always angry. I mean, I just play it up for the cameras. I just like movies, and I like to play a character. For like the more dramatic reviews. I mean, you saw how
there's
it worked
a little
in,
bit of that in your
Yeah.
real life personality.
but like
for
I'm not
sure.
always like whatever the backfiring muffler of an asshole sounds like. One of those guys that goes around with like no muffler and they're like, "Ha, I have a Mazda with a cool engine." You're not cool and you'll be single for the rest of your life. I hate to break it to you, but you've got a tiny dick. I'm sorry.
No, that's what you said to that one guy in the theater that had
Yeah,
two
yeah, no.
hookers.
You interrupt my hurricane heist, you got a tiny dick and you got escorts. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, don't talk during Hurricane Heist. It's a genius, stupid film.
I'm pretty sure Hurricane Heist is the name of that girl he was sitting next to. But hey.
No, that's called Gold Digger. You have to pay
That
for
was just
escorts.
mean.
That's how it works. I mean, she just wants
Hey,
money.
Anya Taylor-Joy works
The
hard
guy
for
had
her
a
money.
mole in the middle of his face that was like growing hairs, and I don't know, his mustache wasn't trimmed. Like, this guy wasn't getting anything.
Oh, so it's
He
the
was the
doorman for Mike Carley.
He was the definition of not pussy but dead cat for my boom mic. Let's just roast this guy now.
You said this was a clean mic, man. Come on.
Oh. It's our dirtiest show yet. Just call me AC/DC. Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. But Tyler, what was? I love AC/DC. Even their latest album. Did you listen to the latest album? Like, it's really solid. Shot in the Dark was great. I know it's not movie related, but I think their latest album was solid. I think you go out on that. You go out on a high note and say, "We fucking did it. We rocked the world."
You are one of the few people I know that actually finish albums from beginning to end.
Yo, like, album formats. That's where it's at. Like, the artists create arts from beginning to end. You don't watch the middle of a movie. You watch from front to back. Like, yes, there's artists who are single artists. Like, Rihanna's a single artist. Like, you've got Shakira, a single artist. But there are artists like Dream Theater. They're still putting out prog concept albums. You've got AC/DC. They've got their themes from beginning to end. And yeah, sure, it's a little repetitive at points. Like, Fly on the Wall is probably the most repetitive album. But I love it. I love it. They're just doing what they do. They're being creative. They're making the music. AC/DC has been consistent from day one. They've never changed their style. They weren't like in the 90s trying to be like new metal or grunge. They were just AC/DC. And I respect that, They did their thing, And everyone said, "Oh, you're the same." Well, people are still paying to see them, so fuck you.
I was going to tell you why I think most people don't actually finish albums from beginning to end, but I think you really don't care considering how much that doesn't connect.
I mean, why do you think? I'm curious.
Well, because I mean, for a lot of people, one particular song from an
Okay.
artist tends to be the movie, and the album itself is just like a greatest hits collection. At least that's the
Yeah.
impression I get whenever I see an album, and I just want
Fair.
very specific songs compared to the others. Because like I remember getting a Maroon 5 album when I was a kid, and outside of a few songs, I didn't really care for it.
Taking me down. I dig that song, and Kara's Flowers is incredible. Have you listened to Kara's Flowers?
I don't think I have.
Adam Levine's first band, they lasted about 3 weeks, put out an album. It's one of the most interesting sort of knockoff Weezers that you'll ever hear. It's fantastic.
I may have heard about
It's
that.
good. It's
like,
good. Like, it's the best stuff they've
Maroon
done.
5. It's pre-Maroon 5.
When they were doing the launch party for the Untouchables and a couple other bands right in LA in 95, 96, like they were playing every show and they were stealing it. They were like one of the best opening acts you could have. And then he went and did Maroon 5, and I have respect for their first 3 albums. I think like once it's sort of like Panic at the Disco. If you have all the original members collaborating, you've got some really good music. But as soon as it's just Adam Levine or who's the guy from Panic at the Disco? Brandon Urie. It's just start a solo career. You know, just call it a day because you know it doesn't work without them.
I'm pretty sure
bass
he
and the
is.
drums is he
I'm
retired
pretty sure he
for
is
a
calling it a
family.
day.
And I mean, hey, it's great you're having a family. Congratulations. You know, just maybe you should have stopped Panic at the Disco in 2009. Just stop. But we keep getting sidetracked. This is a good show.
You keep getting sidetracked. I'm
You
just
keep
waiting to
talking about
see
things I like to talk about.
because you ask me for shit like this.
I don't know. I mean, we're just sort of going with it, going with the flow. I don't know. You watch wrestling? I was watching a bit of that. It's fun. But anyway, the good times.
I was going to comment on that, but I feel like we should just get to the fucking topic at hand.
On today's topic, in the center ring, movies that inspired us. You know, Vince McMahon is no longer there. Hire me. I'm there. I watched Rocky. I've seen Rocky 2. The King of Sting. Apollo Creed. I'll get that mic lowering down. I'll be like, and now coming to the ring, wearing blue shorts in the corner, weighing 134 pounds. Yeah, but we're inspired by movies. That's today's topic. What do you think of that? Do you think I got the Vince McMahon job? Is it too much? Is it too cheesy?
Well,
'Cause, like,
seeing
I
as
can tone
how
it down.
Vince McMahon was in charge of wrestling, not boxing.
You know what I mean? It's the same. It's the same thing.
No, it's not. Boxing is real.
Hockey and football are pretty much the same sport. They both wear spandex shorts and crush your junk. Don't worry about it.
Okay, I've played both, and I know for a fact that's not true, but moving on.
This is a great show.
It was just while we were sitting through the stream of our latest video, it just occurred to me that we haven't really talked to each other that much about how our love for movies started, and I was hoping to get an idea of like what your earliest memory was of loving movies, whether it be as a kid or
we did like
as
first
a
movies we
teenager.
saw, but we very vaguely touched on it. Like first theater experiences, I think we did. I think we might have done that once. Like
I don't
very
really
vaguely. It was like
remember
the
that, to
intro
be
or an
honest.
outro to a show, and we just sort of got on the topic of like, you know, because I was talking that Toy Story 2 was like the first movie I remember seeing.
Okay, I
That's
do remember
the one. We talked about that, and I talked about, I don't know. Did I tell you the story of Muppet Christmas Carol? Did I tell you the story?
No, I don't think I have. I
So
don't
when my
think I
mom
have.
was pregnant with me, love my mom, she's the best. She went to see the Muppet Christmas Carol, and I was technically like 8 months old. See the Muppet Christmas Carol there, and she had to leave halfway through because I was a terrible baby in her stomach. Let me tell you that. But that's like the first movie I was technically at. But Toy Story 2, like that was the experience. We were down on vacation, and where were we? We were in the States in Vestal. We went to Binghamton. We went to Binghamton to this little tiny like theater. You had to walk up all these stairs, and they had the movie posters. It was really similar to the Frederick Theater, except you went up instead of down. I missed the Frederick Theater. That was great.
Those were
Oh, my
so many
goodness.
great
Did you go on
movie
Tuesdays?
experiences.
So
That's
cheap.
a good question. I
It's
think
like
we always
$3.50 for a movie.
I think we were always just going on the weekends because there were so many
Mm.
times where we went with neighbors, depending on who wanted to see the exact same movie. Because I remember going to see robots at that theater with neighbors
Love
of mine.
robots. It's fun.
I remember some guys that I was friends with seeing Yu-Gi-Oh there because I think it was playing there for a little bit.
They
can't
did
really
every single
remember.
VeggieTales ever. Let me tell you.
Oh,
I was
remember,
in line.
I remember the posters being up for that.
I saw all of them up to like 2015 until they closed. Like I saw every VeggieTales there. Like that theater for me, full of memories. I saw Despicable Me there because I didn't want to pay full price and it was cheaper. I mean, even the theater food, it was like $6 for popcorn. Like I could handle that. It was like princess price. It's like this is good. And I mean, I think the guy retired. It's underground go-karts now. It costs $30 for one lap with a helmet rental.
Wait, when did you say that it closed down?
Like 2018. It closed down like right before the pandemic, and then they shut it down. Like there was nothing else in that mall. There was a coffee time and there was nothing there. There was a sewing store.
I don't even remember shopping in that mall, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean they do now have the Bible for Missions thrift store there and the furniture in there. So we bought a couple pieces of furniture from there because thrift stores are great for furniture. Bought a table there or something.
There was one memory I had. I want to say it was at Frederick. We went to see The Incredibles, but my sister got scared, so my dad took her out halfway through, and for the rest of it, it was just me and my mom sitting through that movie, and I for the life of me can't even imagine where the two of them would go unless there was a restaurant that
there's a coffee time upstairs.
Conveniently wouldn't have remembered.
What's the movie that scared you most as a child? The one that terrified you to your very core. You couldn't watch. You had to fast forward through. Your parents were like, nah, you can't watch this, or you watched it once and you were good. Because I'm curious.
That is a really good question.
Because for me, there's two actually. When I was 4 years old, I was terrified of Humphlumps and Woozles from the Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, the one with like all the episodes. They did all the shorts.
Yeah.
Those Humphlumps and Woozles dancing around to that music. Humphlumps and Woozles. Terrifying. I had to fast forward through it for like from age 4 to 7. I couldn't do it. I had nightmares about Humphlumps and Woozles. Woke up and I'm like, hey mom, I'm afraid of the Humphlumps. She's like, what? I'm like, the thing from Winnie the Pooh. And then when I was 5, and I don't think I've told this story on here. I used to watch Treehouse. Did I tell you this? So
Treehouse is in like the programming
Treehouse TV.
block?
We'd watch that
okay.
But at night they would show horror movies. But I didn't know that these were horror movies. So here I am at night. I couldn't sleep. It's middle of the night, and I turn on this and I see this, the mother from Seventh Heaven, and this really charming doll named Chucky. And then it starts murdering people. And I'm like traumatized at 5 years old with a doll with a knife.
I do remember at the Rogers video store, like just dreading having to walk past the horror section to get some movies I want.
Yeah,
because
the killer dolls were like,
the
no, fuck no.
VHS of Chucky with the knife in the original movie, like that. I remember it being more terrifying than it actually was.
Oh, no, when you're 5, that's scary. You've never seen anything like that. You're like, my dolls could murder me. I never owned a doll.
Well,
I never wanted to.
Well, when you're younger,
I'm owning teddy bears.
When you're younger than
dolls.
10 like I am, it still is terrifying. And plus, I was relatively a pretty easy kid to scare, which is why it makes this question a lot more tough. I think the first movie I really remember being that frightened by was literally probably this one moment from Toy Story 2.
Oh, that is, yeah.
And
I get you.
I think you already know which moment I'm talking about, but just in case anyone's wondering, well, what is there to be afraid of with Toy Story 2? Well, there's that moment where Woody has the ripped arm, and there's a sequence where you think that Andy looks at it and thinks that he doesn't actually want to play with Woody anymore, throws him in the trash in slow motion. Everything is going pitch black. He says goodbye, Woody, with this ominous,
oh my goodness,
incredibly disturbing sound. And of course, Woody calls out, "No, Andy!" Like the first time he directly
slow motion
addresses Andy, and then he wakes up, which. Yeah, that was a lot to your system, and I was 3 years old when that happened. The fact that I even remember it should really say something. I would like to say that Toy Story 2 was the first movie I ever saw in a theater, but
really, because that's
there are two problems with that. For one, it wasn't, and the other is apparently I pissed everybody off in the theater so much because I didn't want the movie to end, and it was a classic case of a little kid being dragged out by their parents, which I more than likely have.
Get that attention, Tyler.
Oh, piss off. That's not the attention I'm getting. But I know for a fact that the first movie I ever saw in a theater, my dad and my aunt took me when I was 2 years old to see Barney's Great Adventure.
Oh, my goodness. I remember that. Is that the one where he goes to the castle, or that's the one with the magic egg?
That's the one with the magic egg.
The magic egg. Okay, I gotcha.
Which, Having seen the Nostalgia Critic episode and being reminded of what I had to sit for growing up.
Did I ever show you that clip where I ran over a Barney doll with a car? It's pretty dope.
You told me you were going to send that for a
video.
video.
I got to put that back up again. I mean, we ran him over with a bicycle and a car. It was pretty great.
For a video that I didn't end up making because I was hoping that Barney docu-series about just how much hatred that show got was going to come to Canada, but because it's on Peacock and Peacock is U.S. only, that was not an option. But
tell you my Barney story? Ever tell you that?
You have told me the reason you hate Barney in particular.
Well, I don't like Barney.
That you would actually...
But like 9/11. So it's September 11th.
Great show, folks. Good night.
2001. And my sister's sitting there watching Barney. It's like, I love you. You love me. And my mom's like hearing on the radio. They're like, the planes have struck the Twin Towers. And my sister and my mom goes to like change the TV. And my sister's like, don't change it. She's throwing like a fit. And then she turns it on right as the second plane is striking the second tower. And like, she's American. Like, she's not happy. And it's just like, all I think of is, I love you. That's a choice, you know? That's a choice. Just like many things are a choice. I love you. You're dead. And then, let me tell you, 16th birthday, volunteering at the MCC. True story.
What are you talking about?
This is great. This is relating to Barney. So 16th birthday, I'm volunteering at the MCC. And they like to mock me. I'm in high school. I'm pretty gullible. So Julie, love Julie, bless her heart. Julie and Tom are incredible. Bakes me a Barney cake. Did you listen to Lonely Island's Threw It on the Ground? I threw the cake on the ground, walked out, didn't come back for a week. I was like, no, they were even singing I Love You. Like, they were like full torture mode. Like, it was the worst experience now, but it's like the greatest story to tell. It's like the time I punched the Kool-Aid man. Fuck that guy. I don't like him. I'm 7 years old. Mascots don't got no face. Fuck you. True story. No, we're at the Foodland, and I'm trying to walk in with my mom, get a gumball. Like, it's quarter back then. I know that's hard to believe. And the Kool-Aid man's like out there like trying to promote Kool-Aid, and they got a Kool-Aid stand, and my sister's getting the Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid man's like trying to shake hands, and he's going like, oh yeah, like that. Like, I think that's the best I can do it. His voice was like really deep. This was like a grown-ass man with like more leg hair than a chimpanzee, I'm guessing. And he's wearing like red tights and the big thing, and he keeps trying to shake my damn hand. And I'm like, no, bro, back the fuck off. And he's coming at me, and I'm like, and I get in the grocery store. I'm safe. I'm clear. I'm away from the Secret Service. Fuck the cops. You know, I'm not there. Come out of the grocery store, got my freaking gumball. He walks up to shake my hand, swallow the damn thing, so I punch him in the stomach. I'm like, ugh, that was my gumball, you idiot. I don't like that guy. Never heard that story? I hate the Kool-Aid man.
There is no story I'm going to be able to say for the rest of this video that even measures in comparison to this.
My life is amazing to me, really, only.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Why don't I tell a more calming story?
Yes, please. Bring it down. Bring it down for the audience. A little Marvin Gaye up in here. Make it romantic. It's like what people get it onto, you know? People fuck to Marvin Gaye, don't they? That's like the best turn-on music besides like Darude Sandstorm. You know, I can see someone really getting onto that. I know that's like, no, you did.
Moving on.
No, actually, did you not do Laser Quest growing up? You do Laser Quest?
Once.
Yeah, like people were having sex in Laser Quest to Darude Sandstorm while I was on there on like a school trip. It was weird. But like these adults who just joined us because like it was just during the day. It's freaking weird.
So I remember at a babysitter's house that because I was the oldest out of all the kids that she was dealing with, when it was nap time, she knew for a fact that I wouldn't go down easy. So every single time she would put me in her bedroom because it had a TV. And I swear to God, it had just about every Disney VHS imaginable. Like, I remember at 4 years old watching stuff like Great Mouse Detective and Oliver and Company that I would not revisit until my Disney binge during the first lockdown. And I don't know why. There was something just so peaceful about it where I would occasionally doze off. And there were definitely movies that I remembered watching but didn't know a single thing about. Like Hunchback of Notre Dame, I didn't care less about it when I was 5 years old, but now consider it one of my all-time favorites. And
that one what's that song he does? Like the bad guy. The song is probably the highlight of the film.
Hellfire is definitely
really
one of the greatest moments.
That is pretty solid in that film.
It is definitely one of Disney's best villain songs for sure.
He's a good villain.
And I just revisiting that memory, it just occurred to me how much of the stuff I watched growing up as a kid, whether it be a movie or a TV show, there was always singing involved with it, whether it be a theme song or the show or movie itself actually was a musical. It was almost always exclusively hand-drawn. Because, I mean, there was every 2D Disney movie. There was every PBS Kids or Playhouse Disney cartoon.
Yo, PBS Kids was dope. Do you remember that show? The one where they, like, the kids went through, like, American history? What was that called?
Liberty's Kids was a really good show.
Super cool.
Like, I saw episodes of it a year ago just for the hell of it. And while some of it doesn't hold up, I mean, the French Kid is comic relief. The jokes fall pretty flat.
I think it was pretty cool when I was a kid. And Arthur, y'all watch Arthur. I'm sure I loved Arthur.
Well, of course. I mean, who didn't watch Arthur?
And then there was that game show with kids. I forget what it was.
There were some Nickelodeon kids game shows. I never watched those because I didn't get into Nickelodeon until I was in grade school. And even then, it was mostly just Zoe 101, Drake and Josh.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of what else because I know there were a couple other things.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, as a kid, like PBS Kids shows were my absolute jam. I would just glue myself to the TV when there was Dragon Tales or when there was
Dragon Tales. That's how it started. Dragon Tales. I remember the theme song, but not the show. I think it was fun. I remember that.
Yeah, and I revisited a couple episodes where wow, the voice acting does not hold up whatsoever.
It's a kid's show. I mean, it's about as good as a PS2 game. Don't question it.
But Arthur is a kid's show, and the acting still holds up.
That show is pretty solid. That was like the exception to PBS kid shows.
And even with something as fucking stupid as Cyber Chase, which I remember
Cyber Chase. I remember Cyber Chase.
That was brand new in our day and age. And then you look at it now because it is still on the air. Every actor within that show, except for the two people who died midway through, and Gilbert Gottfried was one of them, unfortunately. All the actors are still there. Christopher Lloyd is still the hacker and is loving, somehow, all these years, 20 years later, is still loving every single minute of it. You can totally tell.
I mean, like, Christopher Lloyd is just a fun guy. Like, you've seen his Back to the Future reunions. He's even in Piranha. He's having more fun than anyone else explaining what a piranha does to eat people.
That's absolutely
half that movie
true.
is just freaking sex. They're banging and then piranhas eat them. And Christopher Lloyd is a highlight.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there's literally an unaired version of Cyber Chase where the animation was different. Every voice actor was completely different. Like Christopher Lloyd was not hacker, and just listening to whoever that other guy is, they needed Christopher Lloyd for this to be a great character.
Did you run home every day and be like, Redwall, where's my medieval mouse at? Redwall was dope. That was so cool.
I don't remember. I've never heard of Redwall, but I do.
Redwall was amazing.
But
animated like rabbits, medieval times, squirrels, all that stuff. It's
okay,
so
well,
cool.
when you mention medieval time and you think of a mouse, I think of that little computer mouse from Between the Lions. That was kind of
Between the Lions, the reading show. Oh my goodness, I dig that. Did you watch Reading Rainbow? With
absolutely.
It's in a book. It's Reading Rainbow. Man, I watched the shit out of Reading Rainbow.
They definitely had some. It always sucked that there were only like one or two books that my school ever really read that were in that show.
My library had all the books in the show, and I would get out.
Like
the book
you could totally tell.
I would watch the reruns, and I would have the book, and I'd be like, "I'm the coolest."
It feels weird even knowing that Timothy Goes to School was based off a series of books.
Man, I remember that show. Is that PBS?
That was technically PBS.
Oh my goodness, I forgot about that.
They did play that on TVO Kids because TVO Kids always borrowed which Playhouse and which PBS
Best
Kids.
TVO Kids show is Time Warp Trio. Only lasted one season. It was cool. These three friends traveled through time like gladiators and stuff. They had books. It was freaking sweet. It was like it was more like that more like Fairly Odd Parents animation than anything. Time Warp Trio is cool. They only did like 12 episodes, but it was like really solid. They went to like gladiator times, and they went out. It was like Peabody and Sherman, but with three best friends.
That's interesting. I don't think I ever heard of that show.
Lasted so shortly, but I was reading the books at the time. Like I mean, if they had made a Magic Trio show, I'd be all over that. Like, I read so many of those books growing up. We only had like 20 when I was a kid. So now they got like 400.
Yeah, and like I remember every single day it would be Dragon Tales, it would be Clifford, it would be Arthur.
I remember Clifford.
Even Sagwa, I got into Sagwa quite a bit.
Is that the cat?
Yeah.
That's the cat. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember much about it.
It was decent overall. I mean, you can totally tell some actors from other shows. Like Sagwa's dad was Mr. Ratburn from Arthur, and I'm pretty sure Sagwa herself, I could be wrong on this, she might have been like the pink dragon from Dragon Tales. I don't really remember.
I don't
off the
remember.
top of
I
my
remember.
head.
I remember like a vague image of a cat with chopsticks eating rice in an intro.
That was in the intro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Because like sometimes
Was she the pet of the owners there, or was she like the cat owned it?
her entire family of cats were like
Yeah.
the pets of the emperor, I guess.
I remember her dad like sitting down like Seventh Heaven style and be like, "Well, you robbed the bank. What are you gonna do about it?" "I'm not gonna do it again." "Okay, we're good. Go at home."
Was that the one where there was like a burglar stealing from everybody?
I don't know. I remember vague bits.
Because
of
that's
the
really
show.
that's the only episode I remember through and through.
Yeah, but yeah. So as a kid, you watched the TVO. Okay.
Oh,
Memory
all the
lane here.
time. And I feel like that's where my appreciation for animation in
Okay.
particular came from, just because I was fed so much of it. And it wasn't until as I grew older that CGI became a big thing. And obviously, I got into it. I mean, I saw every Shrek movie in theaters whenever it came out. And, you know, Pixar always brought some good memories, except for Wall-E. Like, my entire family, when we walked out, we literally just sat there and we went, you know what? We should have just went to see Kung Fu Panda a second time, because we fucking loved Kung Fu Panda when that came out.
I got a story about Finding Nemo. Do you like Finding Nemo?
I liked Finding Nemo. I remember being a little terrified of the first opening because
Braces girl, like go to a dentist for goodness sake.
Yeah, that is her uncle, the dentist. Remember?
I know, like get a better dentist then.
I feel bad for kids that have that kind of headgear, because I can't imagine how you could have any friends. I will give credit. They made that girl super happy and energetic to the point where she didn't care what she was wearing. And I mean, props to you, kid. Anybody who has that outlook.
She did have self-confidence. So that was like 2001, right? That was Finding Nemo 2002?
That was 03, actually.
03. So anyway, we're going down to visit my aunt and uncle in Michigan. My aunt, whatever. Name's not important. The point being, we go down there. I can't remember their names. I remember uncle's place.
Well, that's super helpful.
There's a name there. We're in Michigan, and we visited the sand dunes, and we went to a bunch of thrift stores, and we went to Dollar General. It was such a cool place. Trashiest place on the earth. You could see like a hobo sleeping in the corner, but they had great deals on dinky cars. But anyway, my Aunt Judy looks at me, and she's like, "Hey, we're going to go see Finding Nemo." And I was like, "Oh, I love 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and I just finished Mysterious Island. Let's go." Show up at the movie. I'm like, this is not Jules Verne. I didn't even like it because I was expecting Jules Verne. I was like, Captain Nemo. That's the name of the captain in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's the Nautilus. I was like, I want to see an animated version of that. I love 20,000 Leagues. Like it's got a giant squid. I got a whale of a tale to tell you folks. A whale of a tale or two. Like there's so much great stuff in it. You got Peter Lorre as the character actor. And I was like, you give me more of that, I'm down. But no, it was something else. But now, years later, I do appreciate it. Like, I do think I laughed the hardest at the seagulls going mine, 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 but I think everyone else did. So, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. And as you mentioned that, it really occurs to me that you've been watching, like, older stuff probably your entire life. And I'm kind of wondering, like, did you discover older movies like Cary Grant and Jimmy Stewart on your own, or was that kind of just or was that kind of just fed to you growing up?
So when we were growing up, we didn't have a lot of VHS. We had a few. Like I had Robin Hood. I loved Robin Hood. I think we had Cinderella. My sister had Cinderella. Winnie the Pooh. We had a few movies, but VHS were quite expensive, so we just bought what we all watched as family. So we had The Great Muppet Caper, The Muppets Take Manhattan. We had Cinderella, Robin Hood. I bought Inspector Gadget with my allowance money when that came out. Saved up my allowance for like 3 months and went out and bought Inspector Gadget on VHS. Stuff like that. I mean, when the DVD came out in like 2004, I saved up my money and spent the $60 on that. But we had a channel. We didn't have Nickelodeon. And when I was about 6 years old, I got really sick and tired of anything that wasn't Magic School Bus or Arthur. I loved Arthur. I loved Magic School Bus. Watched those all the time. But my sister would watch stuff like Captain Kidd, if you remember that, and all those shows we just mentioned. And it just didn't hit me anymore because I was just like, I want something just a little more mature, a little more interesting. And that's when I discovered The Incredible Hulk and Wonder Woman and the A-Team and MacGyver. And my dad would just sit around and watch Spike TV all day when I was 6 or 8 years old. So I watched a lot of mature content. And I just watched people with guns and explosions. And I saw a lot of Arnold movies young. And so I just naturally gravitated towards older content. So the first thing I think I remember seeing is we would watch old movies on A&E. They'd play them 7 o'clock at night. And I remember sitting down one night, and they were playing, what was it? The first one I remember, really, they did A Night to Remember from 1957, 51, whatever, the Criterion Titanic sinking one. And I remember just sitting there glued to the screen, because I'm addicted to Titanic. As a kid, I have the books. I built I made a replica out of Lego, the best I could. I mean, and then bricks were in advance. And I just remember sitting there watching this movie and feeling all this emotion. And I was like, can movies really be this engaging? Can movies really be this good? Do I have the Criterion up here? I think so. Where's my Criterions? Yeah. I totally have Criterions. Would it be like... It's going to be here somewhere.
Would it be in the ends or would it be in the A's?
I think I have them separately. But the point being, they're around here somewhere. But the point being, I started to watch that. And then CHCH the next week had a silent movie marathon. They did Charlie Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, and Buster Keaton. They'd play these things for hours. And I was just laughing hysterically at these people falling down and climbing on trains. And I saw The Great Train Robbery. And that one, like, blew my mind. And Safety Last, where he's hanging off the clock. And I saw The House. And I'm just sitting there glued to the screen watching this black and white silent footage. And they play this all day. And so the next day, I'm like, what are you going to play today? Because I'm super excited. And they put on Duck Soup. And I sit there. And I have the greatest time I've ever had watching a movie on TV. I can't wait for the commercials to end. I refuse to get up. I'm like, pause it. You can't even pause it. You know, you can't pause TV. Between the Tide Pods and the L'Oreal Paris and the random iPod commercials, are you gonna be my girl? I'm watching mayhem unfold. I'm watching the Marx Brothers run a country into the ground, start a war, and then the entire civilization gets wiped out. And I've never had a better time. And then, after that was His Girl Friday with Cary Grant. And I was like, this is funny. And then they did Road to Rio after that. And I was like, who is Bob Hope? And I'm just sitting there watching movie after movie after movie. We've got Double Dynamite coming on the next week. We've got Run Silent, Run Deep that they're playing on there. We've got all these old black and white classics poorly restored. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is a movie. This is the way it should be. And then from that point on, I gave up on cartoons unless it was Inspector Gadget or Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because let me tell you, I would wake up at 6 a.m. on Sunday mornings to watch Rocky and Bullwinkle from 6 to 7, then play 2 episodes back to back. And then Monday through Friday, they would play Inspector Gadget. And this was the time, remember when TV would go off the air at like 2 a.m.? And you'd come back on with like the national anthem at like 6 a.m. 5:59, I'm sitting there. Oh, Canada, do-do-do-do, Inspector Gadget. Loved it. Freaking loved it. And I just sit there, and I took all this in.
You know what? That did happen to me in kindergarten where on Global, right?
Oh, yeah, they did it on every station. Like, you had to do it. Like, they just had different ones.
No, I mean, like, watching Inspector Gadget reruns on Global. Like, that was a big thing for me before kindergarten.
Well, they did it on YTV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was early. They did Global, too, for a while there. I love that show. I was glued to the tube. From about age 8 onward, I gave up reading. I just was like, fuck it, I'm watching movies.
Oh, that's totally valid.
I still read books. Like, I'll read the shit out of them Hardy Boys books. I got, like, most of them. I read those things. I love sci-fi. I love Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. And I got my way through the Simultron. That was a tough book to read. That is a lot of description. and the board I know exactly what the board looked like on the left sideward bow of the boat that was sailing towards its destination. Tolkien has a lot of description. But yeah, no, I saw these things on TV. They were free, and I loved it. And then I guess to farther my film knowledge, my buddy Willem, growing up, love that guy. I don't know where he's at, but hey, Will, if you watch this, reach out. You're cool. Let's talk. He looked at me and he's like, "Hey, you're like 9 years old. You know, you haven't seen British comedy." And he's like, "You got to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. You got to watch the entire Monty Python's Flying Circus. You got to watch Jeeves and Wooster. You've got to watch Fawlty Towers. You've got to watch the extras. You got to watch the British seasons of The Office when we got older. You know, you got and you got to watch the one you pointed out earlier, Mickey Blue Eyes, one of his favorite films. You got to watch Glengarry Glen Ross. I mean, he just would bring over movies I've never heard of. The Commitments, fantastic film. Willem showed me that one. He just expanded my film knowledge like from here to eternity. You know, great film with Frank Sinatra, by the way. I saw that on TV like a long time ago. TV used to play movies, you know, and you used to have cable. But really, people just showed me movies. I mean, the Blues Brothers. I saw that at like 12 years old. Mind-blowingly good. Love the Blues Brothers.
Surprisingly, that happened to me too, and I'll definitely get to that eventually.
What about the Blues Brothers? Where did you see that?
Well, I mean, it started off. I had a bit of a comedy obsession in my middle school years, and it started with. My hockey team had this tournament in Ottawa, and because of how long it was, we alternated between episodes of Hannah Montana because every teammate had a little sister that had something like that. But I can't remember who. There was somebody who had this stand-up album of a guy named John Panette. May he rest in peace.
I'm not. Do I know John Panette?
He was this heavy-set stand-up comedian. Most people know him as the fat guy that sent Seinfeld to prison because they watched him get robbed and they made fun of him the entire time.
I have to look at a picture later.
That was like the very last episode of Seinfeld, but that was kind of sort of his big break. And he had this great stand-up set called I Say Nay Nay, and because of his weight, a lot of it was about him going to the gym, working out, trying out diets. And there were other great moments like when he talked about touring, where one night he was at an Italian restaurant in France because he worked on a movie in France. And he goes, well, it's a great thing we went to an Italian restaurant. I love Italian food. Next week we should go to Italy. Well, we can't. We're working. When do we have time to drive to Italy? Oh, no. It's a 45-minute drive from here. Oh, it is. Well, get in the car. 45-minute drive. We're down the street from the motherland. It took me 11 minutes. Hey, combate, she was so naughty. I could have ran it in 45. So we go to the restaurant, and I say, sono affamato, which means feed me, I'm hungry. I know it in 27 languages, and I can write it in hieroglyphics if I have to. So I say, sono affamato. Hey, look at you, son of a bitch, he says sono affamato. Giuseppe, come in here. Say it to Giuseppe. Say it. Sono affamato. Hey, look at you, we gonna feed you. You're gonna explode all over the wall. So, anyways, can we get a menu to order? No, you're not gonna order yet. First, we bring out some food. Go back to France and pack my stuff. And I thought they were just gonna bring out an antipasto, but they brought me an antipasto and a carbonara, armagnetti, and they said, "Now can we take your order?" You're not scaring me. They brought out food for hours. I was just sitting there going, stop ordering. I didn't order this. I didn't order this either. They're just bringing out stuff. Let's get out of here. We had one guy who was skinny. His name was Timmy. He was too skinny. He shouldn't have come. Halfway through the meal, he died. And they kept on trying to feed him. They were smacking him. What's the matter? You don't like it? He's dead. Pass that over here. Poor Timmy. Like, really angry, aggressive, and energetic comedy. Like, everybody in the bus was just laughing their asses off.
Special on Netflix or something, or where do I watch
No,
this?
it was
HBO
something you
or
had
something?
to. It's one of those things that you have to pay full service for, and it got me really interested in stand up. Eventually, one summer, and every summer going forward, I would rent out this CBC documentary called Comedy Gold that was about Canadian humor. And it started from like the bare bones when TV was just introduced. So in that documentary, I found out who Wayne and Schuster were. I know who Peppy and the Nails were.
Did you cover Mary Pickford? She was Canadian. She did a lot of silent comedies.
They touched on silent comedy a little bit, but a lot of it came down to the influence that Max Sennett had on comedy movies, just because he was that big of a silent film producer.
Okay. Then I'm bad. I'm studying silent film. I don't even know the name. I feel awful.
But they really broke it down into segments. Like, it started off with Canadian comedy TV, and it would go from Wayne Schuster, then it would go to like Canadians who worked in America, like Dave Foley, Michael J. Fox. There were Canadian sketch groups.
Helens agree.
Canadian sketch groups were a big part of the documentary, like
Second City,
like SCTV,
yeah.
Kids in the Hall, Royal Canadian Air Force.
John Candy was incredible on SCTV. That was some of his best stuff. Rick Moranis.
And they definitely touched on
stuff.
They definitely touched on John Candy, but it was all these older influences. Colin Mockery popped up because of his work on SCTV, and he was on The Sour Has 22 Minutes for a little bit, but not a ton. Oh no, Colin Mockery wasn't in
Rick
SCTV.
Mercer. That was a fun show.
Rick Mercer got his own segment within that documentary for sure. But looking at Colin Mockery and looking at some of the stuff my dad was really into, like he loved blue collar comedy, he loved the Drew Carey show for a little bit.
The green screen show is pretty good with Drew Carey. He did,
and that was the thing. Like when I looked more and more into the Drew Carey show, I started watching the episodes that were on YouTube because that was back in the day when you were allowed to have TV shows on YouTube, but they would just monetize it, and it was a system that they really should just.
Did you have internet? When did you get
forward.
internet at home? When did you get that?
I want to say mid 2000s, because like there was one computer downstairs in the basement that we were just fighting for control over, and a good chunk of that. Once I found out who Drew Carey was, what were some of the other things he was known for, that was when I really got into Whose Line Is It Anyway, and from then on, like I would just binge the hell out of those segments. There are so many scenes from A Hat that are just unbelievably quotable.
Richard Simmons.
The Richard Simmons episode is the stuff of legends. You are going to be out of breath. I'll tell you,
we lived in Elmira, and you could only get dial-up internet. We didn't get internet in the house till 2011. I went to the library. I had to sign out a computer for half an hour, take everything down there, do my schoolwork. You know, people are like, I walked 5 miles on the snow to school. I walked 5 minutes to use the internet. I didn't have a phone. I had an iPod. I'd sync my iPod up and rip CDs at the library. I'd just take them off the rack and rip them and put them on my iPod in the library and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, making magic. We had dial-up at the freaking library. No high speed to like 2010, 2011 in Elmira. It was awful. It was like cable internet then. It was bad.
That does sound about right. But yeah, the Richard Simmons episode. The one time Robin Williams was on Whose Line,
oh my goodness,
was amazing.
Fuck yes.
I mean, my God, like it wasn't just because it wasn't just him. Like he was hilarious, of course, but he just made everybody step up their A game because of how much energy he had, and they knew for a fact it's Robin Williams. Like we gotta rise up to the occasion and just deliver one hell of a show.
Robin Williams, let me tell you, that man is a legend. I saw Flubber, love Flubber. I saw Good Morning Vietnam, pretty young. I saw Mrs. Doubtfire. I saw a lot of these movies. I grew up on Mork and Mindy, Nanu. Like that show, like I love that trailer. Like I had the Happy Days DVD back in the day, and I couldn't afford to get the Mork and Mindy. My parents didn't want to buy it, and they showed a little bit on CTV. But I always remember that trailer, and he's like, "Hello, Bob Lipschitz. Yeah, I look like a fun kind of guy. I want to look you up in the public." And then go into bit, be like, Mork, why are you sitting on your head? Then why'd I got put it there? Like, it was the dumbest humor, and it hit me at like 12 years old. There was nothing better than watching that trailer. Like, I usually hate trailers. I'd go past the 1, 2, 3, Laverne and Shirley, it's me coming at me, you know? But that Mork and Mindy trailer, now that was where it was at. Robin Williams, legend, fucking legend.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you see his last movie, Boulevard? Really good. Really, really good.
Was that the drama?
Yeah.
I haven't seen
There's
it.
also Angriest Man in Brooklyn, which is fantastic, and I'll take License to Wed, and I still like RV. I mean, like, there's things, I just love Robin Williams. Like, that man is funny. He's a funny guy. I mean, have you heard his stand-up about Noah and the Ark or anything? His stand-up is probably, like, if I'm ranking, like, who are your top 5 stand-up comedians? Who would you pick?
Jeez.
Like, because I'll take Pryor. Richard Pryor is funny. I'll take Pryor. I'll take Williams. I'll take George Carlin. I'll take Bill Burr, and I would grab. I'd actually grab because I'm really what's her name? Chelsea Peretti, who plays Gina in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, has really great stand-up. She's hilarious. She's done a couple specials, and I just die laughing every time.
Okay, I would probably go with John Panette,
Well, it's not Chelsea Peretti, it's
Bill
Gina.
Burr, Jeff Ross as a roaster, just because he's fucking amazing at it. And with that note, Lisa Lampanelli, it's a shame that she's not a stand-up or a roaster anymore, because she had some of the most wicked burns I have ever heard. And some of the boldest ones, too, because I guess it makes sense that she's not a comedian anymore, because half the shit that she said back then she wouldn't be able to without
Sarah
question.
Silverman is hilarious. Inappropriate, but hilarious.
Sarah Silverman's never really done it for me.
Did Jeff Ross, did you watch the celebrity historical roast? Because I haven't seen those, and I saw that pop up, and I don't know if it's worth me watching it. Do you think it's? I mean, Bob Saget's there. He's a funny guy.
I tried watching 2 episodes of that, but it didn't do anything for me.
Fair.
His Bumping Mike's 3-part series with Dave Attell, that stuff is hilarious. The second episode, it's the 2 of them, Gilbert Gottfried and Bob Saget, believe
Like, I
it or
would,
not.
if you had given, if Chappelle hadn't gone past 2005 and it's on the Chappelle show, I would say he's in there. But his recent specials have been mostly repeats themselves. Not that they're funny; they're just a lot of repeats. That's what it runs into. The last 3 have been like the same sort of joke, same sort of setup every single time. That's the biggest downfall of it.
Wait, sorry, who were you talking about there for a
Chappelle.
sec? Oh,
He does the same thing. He triggers the same people. I don't care what he talks about. It's comedy. You're supposed to be able to talk about things.
I don't care
but
about
he
him
keeps doing the same sort of content again and again. It sort of feels recycled.
I don't care about him like triggering the same amount of people. It just raises the question: what the fuck are you guys even listening to?
You got to do
for?
a different special than the last one. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, part of it is like the goalposts keep changing, and I think that's kind of the reason I don't care about him saying the exact same stuff over and over again. Just him
he's lost his original touch. Like, I remember when he was doing the guns bit from his 2000 special is hilarious. Like, him in the 2000s, him in the Chappelle show doing "It's Rick James, bitch" and doing all that sort of stuff is great. I love it. I'm glad the Chappelle show didn't go past the seasons it has. I think it was like the perfect amount. And when he retired, I think that was it. I think that was Chappelle. I think he's done. I just don't think he's got more to offer unless he's going to bring something different to the table.
I tried Chris Rock's last special, Tambourine, just because there are a couple good routines that he has. There's one about bullying where he makes a very good case of the fact that we do need bullies. As he puts it, like, bullies do half the work and teachers do the other half. And the half that the bullies do is what you're going to use when you're a fucking grown-up. Because as he puts it, you think kids were nice to Bill Gates in high school?
No.
Hey, Gates, you
Bill
Charlie
Gates,
Brown. You Charlie Brown.
Dun, dun.
Trust me on this. Hey, Gates, you Charlie Brown-looking motherfucker. Fuck you, Gates, you four-eyed bitch. You think kids were nice to Mark Zuckerberg in high school?
No.
Hey, Zucker fuck. Zucker fucker fucker Zucker motherfucker Zucker. See, he invented Facebook after someone smacked him in the face with a book. He invented Facebook just to get friends. Pressure makes diamonds, not hugs.
Yeah, I mean, whoever invented Tinder is lonely, and they're still very lonely.
He also said, you know what? Cyberbullying's worse. Shut up. I ain't never heard of anybody getting cyber kicked down a flight of stairs. I ain't never heard anybody get a cyber bag of piss thrown at him.
Can't get a cyber swirly whirly.
Do they still
water in a computer?
Do they still do those?
I don't know, man. Like, that was the classic 80s thing. Oh, what are you? And all I remember is Revenge of the Nerds going, nerds. But in Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, Booger is a nerd, but he has to hang out with the nerds and accept them for who they are.
What are you looking at, nerd, huh? No, I thought I was looking at my mother's old douchebag, but that's in Ohio.
There's a Richard Pryor bit, and I got to send it to you. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I started laughing hysterically. I haven't laughed this hard so long. Like, Richard Pryor's a funny guy. Like, he helped write Blazing Saddles. Like, that's how funny this guy is. He wrote that pretty much. He's supposed to be in it, but, you know. But he's talking about, what is it, Richard Pryor, like, live? I mean, Eddie Murphy Raw is a pretty great special, too. And he's talking about this guy going down on a woman, right? And he's dying. And he's dying at the same time as he's, like, pumping it in this woman, and he's going down. And then he pauses, and he's like, there's no greater pleasure than dying while getting some pussy. And I couldn't keep it together. And he's like, I don't even care if it's trapped in there. I'm dead. What are you going to do with it? Just leave it. It's fine.
It's funny that you mentioned Blazing Saddles because I had a
So
bit of a Mel Brooks streak once I found out he was Big Weld from Robots, and I started looking a little bit more. And also, did you ever watch the cartoon Piggly Winks?
No clue.
He was in that.
Okay,
so
that's news to me.
For those who don't know, like the Adventures of Piggly Winks, it's about this grandpa. He's living in America with his daughter and grandkids, and whenever his grandkids has a problem, he tells them a story about his hometown in Ireland that I want to say was like post-World War II, something like that. He and his friends always having a moral problem to solve, and the B plot is Mel Brooks as the sheep on the farm that Piggly lives on. And it was always some stupid cartoonish shit that really didn't match up. I mean, it takes place in Ireland, and you got Mel Brooks just being his usual Mel Brooks.
Being Irish, that's something I'd like to see.
Well,
it's awful. Don't.
It's his regular accent. They don't even waste time on that one. But once I went through his Wikipedia page and realized that dude was basically the guy that gave us Scary Movie, or at least gave the outline of Scary Movie.
Get Smart. He was in charge of Get Smart.
Yeah, and when I found out, oh my God, this guy gave Inspector Gadget his big break. That is just awesome in and of itself. But that got me into
Sorry about that, Chief.
That got me into watching Robin Hood Men in Tights on repeat, which love me some Robin Hood Men in Tights.
That chastity belt just never gets old.
The chastity belt wasn't always my favorite part.
It's a good movie. It's solid.
It was always the parts with Chappelle. Abe Lincoln. Did you say Abe Lincoln? No, I didn't say Abe Lincoln. I said, hey, Lincoln. Hold the reins, man.
Top 3 Mel Brooks movies. Go.
Men in Tights. I haven't seen Blazing Saddles.
So
I got to be completely honest there. I'm going to say... number 2 would probably be History of the World Part 1, just because there's so many one-off bits. Like B. Arthur as the unemployment manager in like ancient Greece.
Solid film.
Occupation, stand-up philosopher. Oh, a bullshit artist. Number 1, it's Spaceballs without question.
Oh my God. I go Spaceballs, Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, no particular order. Love those 3.
Well, like Spaceballs, I could just quote forever.
Have you seen High Anxiety?
I've seen the first half of it.
So there's a bit in High Anxiety. It's the funniest bit he ever did, where the camera just starts to move in, and you think it's a shot, and it goes through the window. And it's so good.
And they all look at the camera, and they just go, "Oh, yeah, whatever." Like
it's like a Pitch Perfect parody of like 40s Hitchcock. But yeah, I love that bit.
And Hitchcock was so appreciative that he actually sent Mel Brooks a bottle of wine just as a way of saying good
Hitchcock,
job.
Like that would be the guy I would meet if I ever make it as a director. I would want to meet Hitchcock, but he's dead.
There's also that moment in High Anxiety where he's at the airport, someone's charging at him with a knife, and she's just hugging somebody.
I mean, that movie is sort of a slog at points, but like it's meant to be a parody of things. Like Young Frankenstein doesn't move the fastest, but it's meant to be a parody. If you know the source material, it works. If not, you can still enjoy it. What's the first horror movie that you loved?
That's Frankenstein.
Well, sitting on the Fritz. On the Ritz. The Ritz.
First scary
movie you loved.
Huh. That's actually a really good question.
I want to bet that you were with your friends, like probably grade 5 or 6, and you rented it without your parents' knowledge for a sleepover.
I did not have any sleepovers like that.
Man.
I got to be honest, I had a pretty boring childhood when it came to that regard. It was always my sister that had friends over for a slumber party. If there was anybody I knew, it was just because they were a neighbor kid that had to spend the night or anything like that. But
was the first one you remember seeing and loving? Could be on TV. I remember for me it was, and I'm going to go classic here, the original Dracula. I saw the original Dracula on TV at like 14. I was like, that's cool.
Okay.
But I did a lot of sleepovers. My buddy Willem. Love Willem. Hi, if you're out there, Willem. Anyway, we were having it was grade 4 or 5, I think. Grade 4 or 5, where we had a 15-person tent. We invited all the boys in our class. We set the Hot Wheels track. We had the Smash Bros on the GameCube upstairs. And his dad, Bob, comes down. He's like, hey, you know what's really cool? If you went streaking, just take off all your clothes and streak. It's a true story. And I was like, nah, not the way that happened. I'm not comfortable with my body. So the entire grade 4-5 class went streaking butt naked, dicks hanging out, running down the street. Someone called the cops. And he comes back, and there's just Willem naked, and all these other boys just naked in the tent. And they're just like, the cop comes back, and his mom's like, "What did you do?" I convinced him to streak, and she just looks at Bob like a terrorist looks at a bomb, like dirt looks at a shovel, and she's like, "You did not fucking do that." The rest of the sleepover was so awkward. It was the awkwardest part of my life. I'm just sitting there watching this partake as Bob's doing this, and he's like, I didn't think they'd fall for it. This was like, it was a thing. And I mean, that was whatever year Metro to Linkin Park album came out. That was the year. He got 3 copies for his birthday, and we watched, it was a Gilligan's Island themed birthday party that year. We watched Gilligan's Island, slept in a tent overnight, and woke up and watched the second Scary Movie. It's great.
So to answer your question,
I had to tell the story.
I know.
That's a good story.
It was admittedly a pretty good story, and it's one of the few that I'm going to remember once this recording session
You will
is
never
over.
forget.
But I think the first scary movie that I really remember seeing voluntarily and having a good time with it was one that I actually haven't revisited since because of how strange it was. It was this movie called The Pact, and I remember seeing it just because Chris Stuckman had a positive review to say about it. And it stars the girl that played White Canary in the CW superhero shows.
What year did
can't
this come
remember.
Was this like 2012? Stuckman started in like 2008, right?
Well, officially he started in 2008, and then the
Yeah.
Jehovah's Witness
If
thing
you
tried
haven't
to
seen his
shame
Jehovah's
him.
Witness video, it's very powerful, very awesome. Just a love of film. Highly recommend it. You can find it on his channel.
I want to say
Recommend it.
that video came out in 2012, and I
Okay,
hadn't really
okay.
started. I started watching his stuff after 2013,
Okay.
where
I didn't find him until 2016, 2015. No, it was 2015 with Screen Junkies when he came on Movie Fights. That's
see,
where I first saw him.
2013 I remember specifically because I didn't watch the Evil Dead remake, but I was
So good.
But I was watching so many reviews from Richard Roper back when he was trying to be a solo act.
Roper and Ebert when they were without their show, or
No, when Richard Roper was part of some online channel called Reels. And
Oh,
he had,
okay.
like less than 5-minute reviews that were decent. But I got recommended Chris Stuckman's review of Evil Dead. And
Okay.
Even though,
yeah.
And even though I was willing to take Roper's side that it was just a complete clusterfuck of a movie, which I gotta admit, I didn't like the Evil Dead remake. I thought it was gore for the sake
What
of
did you think the movie meant?
What do you mean?
The movie has a very deep meaning. It's addiction.
It wasn't enough, man. The genre cliches, the torture porn, it was just overbearing.
That's why
to the
she
point
has to
where-
fight herself at the end.
No, the gore side of it. Like
yeah,
that was
but
just, it was
when those
too-
vines go in her, that's her being consumed by the drugs, and this is basically her being high and
Yeah, and if she was that
accumulating
good-
this addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever it may be.
And-
This is the intervention that they can't break, so
And if
she
she-
sees it as a horror movie.
And if she was that good of a character, I would have been fine with that. Like she's the best out of all of them, but they're so fucking stupid. That's not
You-
really saying
You're gonna
much.
see Evil Dead Rise?
I probably will.
I
Like,
was sort of
it's-
excited. I liked Ash versus Evil Dead. It was fun. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun.
Ash vs.
It was
Evil
cute.
Dead was good at the beginning, and then just got dumber and
I
dumber.
had
as
so
it
much
went
fun
on.
with that show. It was Army of Darkness near the end, and I was okay with that.
But yeah, when I saw Stuckman's Evil Dead review, and even though I didn't agree with it per se, there was something about him that just clicked with me, and from then on, I just started watching his videos more and more. And at the summer co-op that I did, that was the sort of a film studio within the Kitchener-Waterloo community, somebody told me what The Room was. And they told me by showing me the Nostalgia Critic episode of The Room that is still hilarious to this day. And again, like 2013, I think was when I was really starting to understand what reviewing videos on YouTube really was. Well, because like when you watch Chris Stuckman, when you watch Nostalgia Critic, you got recommended Jeremy Johns,
I
you
love
got
Jeremy Johns.
recommended Screen Junkies, you got Schmoes Know.
Shout
back
out
when
to
they
Andy
were a
Signor.
duo.
Love those guys. Schmoes know. Oh my goodness, the Schmoes know. If you're not watching The Big Thing with Christian Harloff, absolutely incredible. Him and Brett Sheridan have like the best on screen, and even Roxy. I love Roxy with that. It's just fantastic.
And then you got all of nostalgia critics, collaborators. Some of them were decent. Like, I still follow Brad Jones to this day, and I love it when he has...
Who's the guy who does the horror reviews? Who's the other guy? Is that Brad Jones?
Brad Jones is he basically...
Because I found some guy who does Sleepaway Camp. Yeah.
He does, like, lowbrow horror movies. His whole shtick is that he saw Siskel and Ebert review Friday the 13th, and he just sat there, like most people, going, you guys are not the people to review this. And he just sat there and went, okay, well, what if Siskel and Ebert reviewed porn movies?
Pretty much.
What if they reviewed, like, the schlockiest of shit that you would have to be a diehard fan of So Bad It's Good movies in order to enjoy? And that became his persona. And then he did what are some of my favorite videos, where it's just him and a buddy of his in a car for an hour just talking about the movie, full-on spoilers.
That's where that came from.
Midnight screenings, which, gotta say, I loved him and his buddies ranting about Legends of Oz Dorothy's Return, which...
I haven't seen that. I've seen Return to Oz, which is fucking great. Great
yeah,
film.
And whether it came from, like, him losing friends, because one of his collaborators actually cheated on his wife, which...
that's a special thing.
That was really something. And then the channel lost some fallout. He started reviewing movies.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, exactly. He started reviewing movies just on his own, like a few minutes, just describing what happens in very specific detail. And I like those videos. I like hearing his output, even except for ones where I know for a fact I'm not going to watch, but he just watches it for the hell of it. Like,
like, who do you go to? You mentioned a few, but do you watch any other YouTube reviewers at all?
Like, I've gotten to Stuckman less and less as time goes by.
Well, he's making a movie now. Like, I'm really proud of him. I catch up when I can, but he's working in the industry. He's doing what he loves. I mean, can't fault a man for that.
And I'm totally going to check out Shelby Oaks when it does come out. I was one of the contributors with his Kickstarter. Nice. I don't know when I'm going to get those extra perks. I've tried accessing his Discord, and Discord is just such a confusing thing.
It is confusing. I mean, I watch Joe Blow movies. You watch those guys? They're fantastic.
I've never actually sat
we got
for
like
Joe Blow.
10 more minutes. Don't worry. We got 10 more minutes on the show.
Oh, I know.
We got time.
But,
yeah.
And plus, Stuckman has just gotten so soft in his output that
I did appreciate, have you seen his recent video about video games? I think that was a really honest critique.
And a kind of a pointless one, too.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's gotten to a point where he's creating movies, so he's less harsh on them. That's okay. I mean, I love Jeremy Johns. Jeremy Johns has a great rating system. Great time, no alcohol needed. Joe Blow is great. There's a bunch of guys. I love watching the people who review the Blu-rays. Like, Films at Home is wonderful, and In Search of Physical Media is excellent. If you want to just see if the 4K or whatever the In Search of Physical Media recently did. I like Knight Rider, and he did the review of the Knight Rider set, which is pretty cool, and they put that on 4K and such. It is in German, but again, it's really nice to see people doing that. Films at Home, love that guy. He just had a kid, and he's got a basement full of movies and such.
Which, by the way, I just found this out. Have you ever heard of Shafrilla's Productions, where it's the YouTube icon is that crab thing from Moana?
No, not really.
Apparently, this one big YouTuber and some collaborators of his got into a really bad car accident where the host himself is in critical condition, and unfortunately, a couple production crew members are no longer with us. So there was that Jeremy Renner thing too with the snowplow too. I heard about that. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's thankfully
terrible.
He's out of the hospital.
Broke like every bone in his body, I gather, but not quite. Almost all of them.
He broke 30 bones.
That's
that I know for sure.
a few bones. I mean, I hope he's doing all right. Like, that sucks.
Yeah, that part was unfortunate. But when it comes to YouTubers I follow, Stuckman, albeit kind of just because I wouldn't be here talking about movies if it wasn't for him. Like, he was a huge influence. And then the pandemic happened and his outlook started to change. And I understand where it all comes from. It's just not really... He's become less and less of my thing. Once in a while, I do pop into Jeremy Johns, but not very often.
I like him a lot.
A lot of people are... I'm going to lose when I say this, but I am a very big fan of The Critical Drinker, especially when he points out just what's wrong with Hollywood these days.
Did you go on the podcast or something? What was that?
I went on a podcast that was created by these diehard fans who run basically a shit posting group page where people they talk about the similar stuff that Drinker does. Like, they post memes and rant about the exact same problems, but some of us do put content out. And when I did, this one guy, Russell Pierce, who check out his channel, Let's Talk Content, where he does like fight breakdowns because he's a bit of a martial arts expert, and apparently has or is going to interview someone who was a martial artist in the first John
cool.
Wick.
Cool.
So that part was pretty cool.
Did you ever do Red Letter Media? I always enjoyed them. I never fully kept up with them, but I enjoyed their review style, and it was. I've
never really gotten into Red Letter Media. I don't know a ton about them. Brad Jones, I mentioned, I do go to his out of character videos. When it comes to a video essayist, there's one that I follow, the Royal Ocean Film Society.
Excellent stuff.
Andrew Saladino is really good behind the camera. Like he's a freelance editor, and that part really goes to show.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a fan of what is it? Everything Wrong With as well. I'm not a super fan, but I get it. I mean, you like Everything Wrong With.
I've gotten out of the Everything Wrong With.
And I used to be a big fan of Honest Trailers, but I'm not anymore because they just, Andy Signore and Dan Murrell and all the people I love left. And then I used to love How It Should Have Ended, but I have not kept up with them. Not kept up with them at all.
No, I genuinely couldn't tell you. And I did kind of get into Andy Signore's anti-cancel culture stuff, but then when he went on and on about the exact same stuff, and he kept saying,
I want to hear him talk about movies, and he does have a movie one. To be fair, he does have a movie page,
and he
just
keeps
movies,
saying,
and that's fine. And I go to his movie page, and I do support him on Patreon. I think that Andy Signore does make some great content, but I prefer his movie content, and that's okay because he has an audience for both. I really don't want the gossip. That's not me, But he does do movies, and he does talk about movies on a separate channel, and I really enjoy that because he was the heart and soul of Screen Junkies. I mean, he made Monday Night Raw with Nick Mundy. Monday Night Raw. It's now Monday. Don't you know that? I love Monday. 6 out of 9, y'all.
The behind the scenes process.
Oh yeah, I saw that video.
Wow.
And then First and Worst was great, and then there's a bunch of shows. There's just First and Worst with Chris Stuckman, and then the Flick Pick. I always enjoyed the Flick Pick on there. I haven't really kept up with him, but he always does these fun movie trip videos.
There was a video floating around of these two guys who shared a bit of a live stream Q&A of Flickinger and tried to make it out as if Flickinger and Stuckman are like no longer buddies.
They just live far away from each other. That's
that wasn't the thing. There was one point where Flickinger got really awkward talking about the aspects of Chris that he doesn't like, where generally when they saw a movie, they agreed 90% of the time, but the 10% where they didn't, it apparently always bothered John that Chris would just get quiet from there on in, and apparently like they had a half-hour drive from the theater back to wherever else they were going, because sometimes Flickinger would stay at Stuckman's house because like Flickinger's Indianapolis, I think.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I like them both. I really don't care about their history. I just like that they review movies.
Here was one thing that I'm confused as to why Flickinger's upset with them. How between that half-hour car ride, you know how it is when we go from one place to another. We always have a shit ton to say, and it always ends up in our videos. But Flickinger...
you film it most of the time.
Flickinger always points out that a lot of what Chris ends up saying in his videos, he didn't say in the car ride. And a part of me wonders, like, why he's so upset about that.
I mean, I always save all my comments for the video. I think it's fine. I like them both. I think they both have a place, and I think there's a lot of great reviewers on the YouTube space. I mean, there's just a lot of great stuff. These are just some of the ones we've mentioned, but what is the movie that made you, because we're working on Film Festival, what is the movie that inspired you to like try to make your own film? Because you're working on something. You don't have to say what it is, because, again, that's happening. But
I say working on because...
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's all good.
Well, that's the thing. Like, there's footage that I shot of Toronto the last time I was in TIFF that was really just sightseeing. Mm-hmm. And a part of me says, okay, well, maybe I can send him, like, a non-narrative short in the vein of Barca.
Whatever you want to do.
Or Samsara. And then make another short where there actually is a bit of a story or there's an actual bit of a visual edge, but I haven't really gotten to that yet, just because.
No, that's okay. But what
I'm super big into procrastinating.
Me too.
Probably when I got my original Star Wars trilogy set, there was that documentary Empire of Dreams.
Oh yeah, I've got that somewhere around.
And that really opened my eyes to what the behind-the-scenes process of a movie was really like. And not to mention, it never occurred to me that there were people behind the camera that would make not just one of your favorite movies, but another one. Yeah. Because it talked about George Lucas and how he didn't start off the happy-go-lucky filmmaker who made this epic
Aliens.
saga. No, he started off with THX 1138,
Fantastic.
and as he puts it in the documentary, he had no intention of becoming successful. At the beginning of the day, he was just into like something more artistic and avant-garde, and he had a strong feeling about having artistic control, which is pretty ironic now that he is kind of, or like in the mid-2000s anyways, was like the head honcho of what you could or couldn't do in Star Wars, as opposed to him being in retirement and just bitching and moaning about it. But it occurred to me, like, okay, he didn't just, like, Star Wars is not the only thing he worked on. He worked on THX 1138. He worked on American Graffiti.
Fantastic
he worked
film.
on Indiana Jones.
Great
and when
film.
I found out through Empire Dreams about
Willow.
Indiana Jones, that's how I got into Indiana Jones, believe it or not.
Indiana Jones was so cool. I watched that as a kid. I loved it. I loved that movie as a kid.
Yeah,
I still love it now.
As soon as I was done,
mind blown.
as soon as I was done obsessing over Indiana Jones, like I went to Rogers Video Store, I got Raiders of the Lost Ark,
So good.
put it in, loved it. Got Temple of Doom the next
Loved
week.
it.
Could not finish
don't
it
like that
because
one.
it
We
fucked.
talked about
It got unnecessarily dark and grim for me.
Last Crusade is
then
awesome.
Last Crusade, which was awesome, and my best friend in grade school at that time was also a huge Indiana Jones fan. So when we found out that there was going to be Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we both got excited. I begged my mom to take us, which is exactly what ended up happening.
I saw that with my youth group. It was great.
We had just a blast watching it, and while I will admit it's got the exact same flaws everybody's had with it, but nostalgia-wise, I have a soft spot for it, and I appreciate it more than Temple of Doom just because it sticks with the Indiana Jones formula more than Temple of Doom does. Because I think with Temple of Doom, they were trying to break away from making the exact same movie as Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then with Last Crusade, they did the same thing over again, but they added something new, and that new element was the father-son.
Sala. I am the captain of the Pinafore, and a right good captain too. Love Sala. Sala's a great character. Hope to bring him back for the new one. I'm not sure if he's in there. I haven't watched the trailer.
He was in the trailer, so he will
Sweet.
be. But that new element was the father-son dynamic that made it so much more investing than it just being a girlfriend or an annoying little kid that screams and shouts at everything.
Yeah, I didn't hate Mutt. Mutt's fine with me.
I was talking about Short Round.
No, I don't like Shia LaBeouf as much. But I also like Kwan Kwao. I butchered his name there.
Ke Huy Quan.
Ke Huy Quan. Congratulations on your Oscar nom. That's really cool for Everything Ever All at Once. Probably the most unique film of the year. Except for The Innocents.
Yeah, one of them
That's
anyways.
a great film.
I felt that Blonde was more unique just because...
Blonde was... I watched it. I liked it enough. I mean, yeah. But we've discussed that in our last show.
Oh, yes, we have.
So, yeah. I mean, I think the movie for me... Because I watched movies just for fun all the time. I just thought movies were like the best thing ever. This is going to be a weird one. There's a 1941 movie that inspired me to start making movies. It's called Vampire Bats. It's like a Dracula knockoff. It's black and white, and there's these vampire bats going around, and people can't leave the inn. And it sort of has this like bottleneck with these great characters. And I don't know, I saw it, and I was like, whoa, I could make that. Because it wasn't like the greatest movie ever, but like they tried really hard. And I was like, okay. And then I got it right here. Let me grab it.
There is one question, folks, that I will have for him. I know who his favorite filmmaker is and how that definitely ties into his overall visual style.
This here, I was watching this as a kid. It's an old comedy video where they have commercials, and they got like Bill Gates their collectible plates and the blue anemone thing, and like, has ever had to stand up on a bus? Who wants to see this baby make fruit juice? Well, it predicts the future. What happens when two women love the same man, but that man is ugly? Answers today on Lowry. Apparently, the lotto winning jackpot has been enough to pay off the aliens, and and they've also, in bonus, eliminated the hurricane. It's just a silly, over-the-top, dumb comedy.
My God, this explains so much about you.
There's a dumb music video. Diagnosis hyper from the day I was born. Da-na-na. Da-na-na.
Okay, how much of this influenced your really bad TV
I mean,
shorts?
the very first thing, you know this, 2010, picked up a camera, had a foam hammer from the thrift store, and I was like, okay, it's called Junk Channel. It's called Junk Channel. It's a terrible parody of this, and the name, you're gonna laugh at this. You ever see this thing? You ever see this?
I have not seen it, but I've heard it. But
So
I've heard of
in
its
this
reputation.
movie here, I watched this movie right when it came out in theaters. I was a fan. Loved Rocky and Bullwinkle. Their evil secret plan is to make TVs. They can mind numb things and then rob everybody, basically. So they have 3 guys riding backwards on a horse, and it's called Really Bad TV. And that's where I started it from. But because random breathalyzed testing was taken in Australia, starting in 2010, it was Really Bad TV. So we started doing a combination of these two. And with vampire bats, I started to experiment, and that was like 2014. I made Return to Sender, about a killer mailbox. We strapped wooden. We took flooring, and we like strapped it to this guy's leg, and we put a mailbox on his head, and one arm had a red legging with like a plastic axe head, and he fought a guy in a wheelchair. And that was like the first serious film I ever made. We dragged, and the funny part is, you work in a kitchen. Yeah. So I worked in a kitchen at that point. I said, hey, everybody, come be in my movie. I took 14 of the 20 staff out of the kitchen for that day to make man-eating mailbox Return to Sender. Neither death nor sleet nor something can stop the mailman. And the one guy was like, he's like, oh, drugs. And it was like caffeine. And it was the best. We got the sound and the music. And, that was the days when we were just doing it. And honestly, it was the best. It was stupid. It was fun. We made dumb jokes. I'll show you. It's I'll send you a link. But anyway, I did this, and we had like her falling down the hill and the dramatic horror music, and they get stuck in the woods. I even did like the parody where the phone rings with the Friday the 13th theme.
Oh, really?
And was it anything great? No. But that's where I got to am today, because I saw Vampire Bats and said, I could do that in college. Did you ever see my Sheepnado?
I don't think I have,
Sheepnado
actually.
17 3/4 and 12 inches. I have 2D Shaun the Sheeps flying around in tornadoes as people fight them with hammers, and they go off windshield wipers. And I just love monster movies. I love dumb monster movies.
And that honestly didn't really occur to me until I was invited to the premiere of your own film.
Ultraman. Love that movie.
Oh, yeah, you've made that part incredibly clear.
Yeah, no, that was a really proud moment in my life. Honestly, I got the poster done up.
I had never seen you that happy. Like
that was a labor of love. That was dedicated to a very dear friend of mine. We took a script, a concept that we'd both been thinking of. We put it together. We really brought it into the psychological horror realm. I tried to put a twist on it. Sure, it wasn't perfect. Again, there was an editing process where we lost the thing like a month prior, and we had to re-edit it and resync the audio. But we got it in there. I think my favorite part during the premiere is probably when you could hear me in the stall going, ring, 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 ring.
I didn't know how to feel about that. I'm just sitting there and I'm going, okay, just bear with it.
But now I've got a really good cut. You can find it on the channel here. But, I made a movie without knowing how to make a movie. We're supposed to move that money to me and Dom were going to go to LA. Rest in peace, Dom. But we made a movie instead, and I don't regret a thing. Don't regret the time we spent together. And I'm just glad that movie got made, because, that's a labor of love. That was 4 nights at the Princess. That was just work. It was hard work. It was learning on the spot. They're tearing down a wall at the Princess to make it smaller so that they can have a lobby. You know where that lobby is now in the original. That wall changed every single night for 5 days. So we had no continuity. That was learning to do blood, learning to do lighting. That was taking film school and making it a practical, real experience. And it's trial by fire. I mean, the thing we shot the one Eden or whatever, Shadows of Eden, that was a major experience. We learned how to light fires. We learned how to work together. We learned who not to work with. You know how that goes. But it's all trial by fire. And I've just been sort of my favorite director. It's a tie right now, actually. I love Robert Rodriguez. But I also love Hitchcock. So, I mean, today I take John Ford because I've watched Stagecoach. But Robert Rodriguez did Spy Kids, Shark Boy and Lava Girl, Desperado, El Mariachi. Great stuff, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. But I mean, then on the other side, you got Hitchcock, and he did Man Who Knew Too Much. Love the 34 version. You have Strangers on a Train from, I think it's 37, which is absolutely fantastic, black and white, incredible. That's actually in my new film, November Chills, in the background. You have Secret Agent, which is absolutely great. Sabotage, you have The Birds, you have Psycho, I love Family Plot. I think I'm the only person on the planet. My favorite, Marnie, which I know you disagree with, but I like the way that film is put together, composed, the themes it has, sort of the both sides of the toxic relationship. But then also you could do a three-way tie, because I love Kevin Smith, I love Mallrats, I love Clerks, I love Clerks 2. I really like Dogma. I think Dogma is hilarious. I think, that's a funny movie. Alanis Morissette as God is great. But like, I've got influences all over the board, and I think the thing to take away from all of this, Tyler, is never stop being creative. Just whatever you do to create, you review movies, you draw, you paint, you write, you direct, you make stained glass, you drum, you play bass, you do slam poetry. But like,
see, that's
don't
funny.
let anyone ever tell you can't do it.
Just do it and prove them fucking wrong.
See, Robert Rodriguez himself, I have heard him say that on an episode of The Chef Show, and it actually does tie into it.
That is a great show.
That does tie into it a little bit, because when Favreau visited him, it turns out whenever Rodriguez invites an actor or anybody creative over to his house, he has this giant book that he makes people draw something in, and Favreau drew... What? What's up?
Oh, no, we're good. We're good. Okay, keep going.
I can never really tell what that thing...
It's still recording. We're good. I'm just checking.
The number stopped.
I know, but it's an error in the thing. It'll be fine. We got the audio from here. I'll fill in the gap. It's all good.
But, yeah, anyways. Shit, what was I talking about? Right.
Yeah.
So Favreau drew this dragon that was fire-breathing a pizza on a stone, which is pretty ironic because they were making pizza, whether it be from flour dough or a cauliflower crust that Rodriguez made because he was on a no-flour diet at the point. And Rodriguez himself talked about how people perceive him based on how he writes, he directs, he does the music, he does the visual effects, he's in a band, he draws, and how he talks about how it's all based in creativity and you have to do multiple different creative outputs so that the one that you're passionate the most about, it can tie into that. So how apparently he teaches his own actors how to draw or how to paint in order to really express themselves.
I mean, the biggest example of all this is Adam Sandler. No matter what you think about that guy, he does whatever the fuck he wants and he doesn't care what you think.
Well, there's some debate as to what I just said applies to that, but
he just does his thing. He just does his thing. He's making Murder Mystery 2 with Netflix.
But it also ties into why I like Royal Ocean, because his own influences have definitely benefited his content, because he literally has a video called Study More Than Film about how you got to do stuff like studying history, politics, learning how to cook, playing chess. Just pick something, just pick a hobby that stimulates you, that gets you more invested. I mean, playing chess is not creative by any means, but it's definitely analytical, and you can definitely learn a lot about that. I mean, with me, I don't just review movies. I go for long hour and a half long walks whenever I can. I mean, I walk to work to and back just to get myself exercise. I take a lot of pride in myself as a cook, and I definitely cook as many things as I can from scratch just because it's so investing. And the one passion towards food, that just completely set off, especially during the pandemic, because what else was there to do other than to create videos and create dishes? And I mean, for a long time, when I was running out of videos to come up with, I just made whatever cooking classes I was instructed to do per my perimeter group chat, where we were all forced to like make a video or take a picture of a certain dish and just compete in a chop-like fashion. And my dad would be holding the camera. We would come up with certain ingredients, and I got to do that a lot more often.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you do it the best you can.
And also, like, focus on the very specific things that draw your best interest. Because, I mean, Rodriguez himself did cooking videos as special features on his DVDs, but they were very specific dishes that you have to, like, spend a decent amount on groceries. You have to go to specific stores. And once he realized that his fans were recreating those dishes, he went down to very basic stuff, like how to make tacos, how to make your own taco shells with flour and water, and just to focus on the dishes. Like, if you're going to be a cook, learn to cook your favorite meals so that you can perfect them.
So I think that's pretty much it for our show because we have to catch a movie. What
Yes,
what
we
are we
do.
seeing tonight, Tyler?
We are checking out Brandon Cronenberg's latest body horror, whatever the fuck we're about to watch, called Infinity Pool. I haven't seen a trailer.
I don't know anything.
I know it's probably another anti-rich, anti-elite kind of movie,
Find
but
out,
you know
won't
what?
we? Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the menu proves that you can do it without being a biased
The
prick.
menu is great.
Unlike Don't Look Up, that just
I never did a review of the menu. Did you?
I did, yeah.
Okay, I never really. I just sort of wanted to process it. But I guess we're gonna call this show an honest conversation with Josh and Tyler. That's really what it is.
The first of many, for sure.
I mean, that was fun. That was fun. But check out Tyler Wolff with 2 F's for fucking fantastic. He's got a review up for Infinity Pool, most likely. Check out PB&J Comedy. We got a new episode dropping Sunday. Today's Friday. 2 days. Shot some sketches. Breaking and entering with popcorn. Solo Cup. Oh, yeah. Another one we got. Table for One. The Ben Squad. It's just a great show. We haven't really had a lot of stuff there. Go 3 of the Best. 3 of the Best is my production company. We got stuff there. We do short films. Coming in June, we're going to have November Chills. Going to have some great stuff on there. And I mean, really, yeah, that's our show. Tyler, say something awesome.
I'm hungry and thirsty. We gotta get something to eat before the movie starts.
We do indeed. Let's rock and roll.